Jace's POV. I met Fagel already at the airport, and we both boarded the plane. Being in Father's private plane, I felt more relaxed as we settled into the seats. The flight from Fangoria to Avenir City stretched out for a long 18 hours, showcasing the vast distance between the two destinations. However, as I blinked, we magically arrived in the enchanting Avenir City. Thankfully. Stepping off the plane, Fagel and I felt the cool breeze of the city's airport. As we walked into the terminal, the beauty of the place overwhelmed us, the sleek architecture, the vibrant colors, and the bustling atmosphere. Above the entrance, the name Avenir was elegantly engraved, welcoming us to their city. As Fagel and I made our way towards the area where the hotel staff awaited us, a sudden commotion caught our attention. Someone dashed past me, slipping a crumpled piece of paper into my hand before disappearing into the crowd. Curiously, I unfolded the paper to find a hurriedly written message. "You're here for the Wren family? Please call me. I know the exact one you're here for." Accompanying the message was a phone number. Intrigued and slightly bewildered, I glanced around, trying to catch a glimpse of the mysterious messenger, but they were already gone. "What's wrong?" Fagel asked, and I turned to him. "Let's get to the hotel first," I replied, and he nodded. Along with the hotel staff, there were also bodyguards available. Erika really went to extra measures for my safety. The car door was pulled open for use, and before I climbed in, I turned one last time to scan the airport for any suspicious-looking person who might have squeezed the paper into my hand. Without a word, I climbed into the car and we left the airport. All through the ride, my mind kept drifting to the paper in my hand, and just how the person knew I was coming for the Wren family. We arrived at the hotel quickly, and we got down once the valet pulled the door open for us. The hotel manager welcomed us quite well, thanks to the influence of the Ironclaw Pack that was known all over. Fagel and I were given separate rooms, and once I got in, I slumped on the bed. I shut my eyes, trying to ward off the exhaustion I felt. 18 hours in the air was like a suicide mission. After staying silent for a while, my thoughts drifted to the paper again, and I fished it out to go through it again. My gaze lingered on the contact number attached to the message. This person had anticipated my arrival, and I didn't know if I should feel scared or not. A knock pulled me out of my thoughts, and I turned to glance at the door. I walked forward to open it, and saw Fagel standing there and staring at me as if I had grown an extra head. "Are you coming in or not?" I asked, and he hurriedly walked in. I shut the door, then made my way to the bed again. "You look worked up," he said, noticing the confused look in my eyes. "Yes, I am indeed worked up." "Look at this," I said, and handed him the paper. He snatched it before going ahead to read through. Fagel raised his head afterwards to look at me. "Who wrote this?" I shrugged. "I don't know. Someone squeezed it into my hands at the airport," I said in response. Fagel blinked. "Is this believable? I mean, what if it's all a setup?" he asked again, and I still shrugged. As much as I hate danger, I still loved taking risks to discover things. "We'll call that person and know what he or she has for us," I said, and Fagel raised a brow. "Are you sure this isn't a trap? We just arrived and someone already knows our motive for being here. It's a bit suspicious." I rolled eyes and said, "I live life by taking the risks. It doesn't matter. We'll call that person now and ask for what we came for. We can't afford to delay things anymore," I said, and Fagel gave a nod. He fished out his phone to dial the number on the paper, and in no time, someone answered the phone. "Put it on a loudspeaker," I whispered, and Fagel did as instructed. "I'm glad you called me." There was a masculine voice from the other end, and I looked up at Fagel. "Who are you and what do you want?" I asked the person. "Please don't get me wrong or don't think I'm an accomplice of the people you came after. I just want your help. Can we meet up at a cafe just 4 blocks away from the hotel where you both reside? You even know the hotel we reside in?" Fagel yelled out, and I stifled a laugh. Calm down, I said to him, making a calming gesture with my hand. We'll meet you there tomorrow morning, I then said to the person on the phone. Afterwards, Fagel ended the call. Your Highness, tell me you're joking. I laughed and shook my head. I wasn't joking. We'll meet up with this person tomorrow. I have a bad feeling about this, Fagel quipped, and I rolled my eyes. You won't be a man if you're not ready for anything. Now man up and head back to your room. We have a lot to cover tomorrow. We need to leave for Fangoria in a week's time, I ordered, and he sighed. Fine. Have a good night's rest, Your Highness, with that. He walked out of the room. Once Fagel left the room, I relaxed on the bed, not bothering to change up. With tomorrow's meeting etched in my mind, I closed my eyes and prepared to sleep. I would call Erika and the others when I wake up. For now, I needed every rest possible. No one knew what would happen tomorrow, by the way. I had to be prepared for whatever comes our way. Finally, I drifted off to sleep. Jace's POV. The next morning, the first thing I did was pick up my phone to call Rika and the others, informing them of our arrival. Afterwards, I got ready to meet this anonymous person as agreed. Fagel was also ready by the time I walked out of my room. Good morning, Your Highness. He greeted me, and I gave a nod in response. You ready? I asked, and he nodded. Yes, let's go. We both walked to the elevator and out of the hotel. The car was already awaiting us by the time we walked out, so we got in and left the hotel. He said 3 blocks away, right? Fagel asked, and I nodded. Driver, take us to the cafe 3 blocks away, he instructed, and the driver hummed in response. We stayed silent all through the ride there. The driver was driving smoothly through the busy streets. I turned slightly in Fagel's direction, and I couldn't help but notice his nervous energy beside me. His leg bounced up and down, and his hands fidgeted with the hem of his shirt. I chuckled and nudged him with my elbow. Relax, Fagel, I tease, a smirk playing on my lips. This person might not be a bad person. We don't even know this person. Fagel shot me a playful glare. Your Highness, he retorted with a laugh. That's exactly why I'm nervous. We're walking into the unknown here. I rolled my eyes in mock exasperation and turned my attention to my phone, pretending to be absorbed in something important. But in reality, my mind was racing with the possibilities of what awaited us at the cafe. Despite Fagel's nerves, I couldn't deny the thrill of anticipation building inside me. Sure, there was a hint of danger lingering in the air, but that only added to the excitement of the situation. As the car pulled up outside the cafe, I shot Fagel a grin. Ready to face the unknown? I quipped, opening the door and stepping out onto the sidewalk. Fagel laughed and followed suit, his nerves seemingly forgotten for the moment. We stepped into the cafe together and looked around, in search of the figure or person that we called yesterday. Just then, my eyes caught someone at the corner who kept staring at us. He suddenly raised a finger and gestured for us to come closer. Over there. I tapped Fagel's shoulders and we both walked to where this anonymous person sat. He stood up once we arrived before him and looked into my eyes. He had the lower part of his face covered, and only his black eyes were visible before us. Welcome, but we aren't about to stay here and discuss. Please follow me, he said, and walked out of the cafe. I glanced at Fagel and he dragged in ragged breaths. I followed suit first and Fagel joined behind us. We followed the masked person outside and crossed the road to the other side. He walked into the building there, and we still followed patiently behind him. We entered the elevator and went straight to the top floor. Once we arrived before a door, he paused it open and gestured for us to come inside. Who are you? Fagel couldn't hold back the tension that threatened to swallow him up. Take a seat, was all the person said, and I did first. I scanned the room and saw that it was just a normal condo, but a luxurious and well-hidden one. After we had settled down, I finally asked, Tell me why you've brought us here. The masked person turned in my direction and sighed. He then sat on the couch opposite us. Firstly, thank you for actually trusting me enough to come here. Then secondly, you won't regret this, he said, and I raised a brow. Okay, let's have it. My name is Joe. I'm a member of the Wren family you came for. At those words, I and Fagel looked at ourselves. He was the member of the Wren family we came for. But why are you helping us? And how do you know it's your family we came for? Fagel asked before I did, and I stared at Joe expectantly. He chuckled low and replied, I know it's my Wren family you came for because we are the ones with the highest shady business in the entire Avenir. And what about the first question? Why are you helping us? I asked, and he sighed. I wanted to be the leader of the Wren family in order to stop the deal and organization my father introduced before his death. But I was overpowered and almost killed by my stepsister. I frowned at that information. Your stepsister? I asked, and he nodded. My stepsister runs the organization now. She ruled the entire family with an iron hand and casted me aside when I went against her. She sent some masked men after me, too. He explained again and blinked. His stepsister almost killed him and even sent masked men after him? Why was she cruel? But why would she want such a position? Fagel asked. Because our father willed it all in her name and her biological brother's name. Our father was killed after he tried to kill the same person he had a truce with. So she aims to get revenge. Wait, that means the head of the Wren family is dead? I asked, and he nodded. He died some years back, and my stepsister ascended as the leader. And who is this, your stepsister? Her name is Serenity Wren. At those words, I jolted up from my sitting position with widened eyes. Serenity? Could it be the same one I know? I asked, and Joe raised a brow. You know another Serenity? He questioned, and I nodded. Yes, but her name is Serenity June, not Wren. That's her. She went to Fangoria and changed her name from Wren to June. She hid her true identity. What? Yes. It is Serenity Wren and not Serenity June. Noir's POV. The annual Christmas party at the Ironclaw Pack was advertised on TV a few days ago, and today marks the actual celebration. I carefully selected my attire, mainly to impress Erika, as Mother said. I donned my best suit for the occasion, while my mother insisted on going with me to the party. I welcomed her company with no other choice. It was difficult to refuse her. Together, we made our way to the car, Mother gracefully leading the way. With a gentle click, we settled into the comfortable seats. Tonight is going to be the night, Noir, she said suddenly, and I turned to look at her. What do you mean? I asked, and she smiled. Propose to Erika tonight. You said she liked the date, so propose marriage to her and see how it goes. I gave her a skeptical look, then shook my head in disapproval. I can't do that, Mother. That's too rushed, I reasoned. She glared at me before yelling. It's not too rushed. This pack needs a Luna, and it would do us good to have a female alpha as the Luna, she said, dusting off the imaginary dust on her shoulder. I watched my mother for a while, trying to think through her words. What would Erika do if I proposed to her? Wouldn't she try to fight me or probably ward me off? And it would hurt my ego more if she ever chooses to reject me before everyone. What if she rejects me before everyone? I asked my mother, and she scoffed. You want to propose before everyone? You're advised to go somewhere hidden. But she won't reject you, by the way. She convinced me, and I had no other choice but to believe her. But I knew Erika. She might definitely not want to have anything to do with me after this. I just had to be extremely careful with her. We stayed silent till the car finally arrived at the venue, Ironclaw Pack House. The entire place was well decorated, and guests had begun to arrive. Each car that trooped in were customized cars for each pack alphas and betas present at the party. Ours weren't exempted too. We arrived at the entrance of the place, and the valet pulled the door open for us. We stepped down and directly walked into the enormous pack house. The entire decorations and the luxurious ambiance was extremely jaw-dropping. There were neon lights decorating the entire place, and of course, Christmas lights and trees. Mother and I walked into the ballroom, and there she was. Rika in a black floor-length dress, her hair flowing freely in big curls. She was laughing with a few ladies, and just then, she turned in our direction. She waved at me and said something to the ladies before making her way towards us. "Alpha Noir, Auntie," she called out softly with a big smile. Mother smiled and pulled her into her arms. "Rika, you've grown so much. You're a full-grown woman now." Mother chuckled, and Erika laughed too. "It's been so long I last saw you, Auntie. How are you?" she said, her voice sounding like the sweetest melody I ever heard. Mother shrugged and turned to look at me. "Noir isn't treating me any better. He's been acting all strange and weird each time I decide to speak about getting put." Erika raised a brow and glared at me. "You've been stressing Auntie. You don't want to get a Luna?" she asked me, and it took all the willpower in me not to shout and tell her she was my aim for a Luna. I smiled and rolled my eyes. "Mother has to learn to be patient. I already found a Luna. It's just the courage and all to get her," I said carefully, and she frowned. "Courage? Why do you need courage? You're the alpha of the city's second biggest pack. Any woman who dares to reject you is totally blind." She laughed, and I joined her. "So she is blind if she rejects me?" "It's not like that, but I do hope to get a positive reply from her when the time comes," I said, and she nodded. "Definitely you'll get a positive reply. I'm rooting for you," she said, and winked at me. She called for a waiter who passed with a tray, and she offered us drinks. "Have some drinks," she said, offering us the drink each. "How is Jerome?" my mother asked, and Rika paused. "Oh, you heard of it?" she asked, and Mother nodded. "Yes. How is he?" she sighed, still unconscious. "We just hope he gets better and eventually wakes up soon. This party was always hosted by him, and it feels different without him now. I just can't wait to have him with us again." Her voice broke at the last part, and Mother patted her shoulder. "Well, Jerome is a strong alpha. Nothing can happen to him so easily. He'll be fine, my dear," she assured, and Rika smiled, nodding her head in gratitude. I never knew Mother could be this nice to anyone. She spoke so smoothly and calm, nothing like the woman who asked me to wipe out the Moon Forest pack. "All right, you both enjoy the party. I'll speak to some other guests," she said, and we nodded in return. Rika then walked off to the other side. My mother and I stood by the side as well. Immediately, some alphas came to greet us. Our influence wasn't just limited to our name and position in the city. We also had businesses that blossomed like the East Wing in the city. And of course, we were known for it. As we conversed, I turned to the exit to see Alpha Alexander, his beta, and a woman beside them. They walked into the party and straight to Rika, who was greeting the other guests. My gaze darkened when Alexander offered her flowers. Who gives flowers on Christmas Day? And Erika accepted the flowers too, but my mind relaxed when she offered the flowers to the servant instead. I saw Alexander's face fall at that, and I felt immense pleasure. "I'll be back, Mother," I said to Mother before walking to where they all stood. I initiated the greetings immediately. "Hello, Alex." Erika's POV. Seeing the look in Noir's eyes when he greeted Alex, I knew the rift between them hadn't been sorted out yet. And with those looks in their eyes, I needed to stop the both of them from taking senseless actions and spoiling the Christmas party. "Noir," I called out softly. When our eyes met, I smiled at him. He seemed to have understood the meaning behind the sudden call, and he nodded. Then I turned to Paula again. We all gave her our attention, as she was going to be a mother in 5 months' time. Yes, werewolves have their babies in 5 months. "Erika, it's time for the couple's dance. Would you like to have this dance? Noir suddenly interrupted, and I turned to look at him. A frown settled on my face, but when I saw his gaze on Alex, I understood that he wanted to make him jealous. Was there a need for that? Anyways, I had no other choice but to dance with Noir. It was the first dance, and as the host, I needed to lead the way for the others. I felt someone's gaze on me, and I turned slightly to see Alex staring at me with a clenched fist and a hooded eyes. I smirked, seeing he was getting affected by my closeness with Noir. Sure, why not? I accepted Noir's outstretched hand for the dance and followed him to the center of the ballroom. With grace and poise, we both danced to the slow but sensual tune of the violin. Noir was holding my gaze with his, and I gulped when I saw the look of longing in his eyes. I saw all the feelings Noir had for me, but I just couldn't reciprocate it. Father's contract still stands, and even without the contract, I don't see myself being with Noir at all. You look stunning tonight, Rika, Noir suddenly commented, pulling me out of my ongoing thoughts. I didn't know if it was all right to just smile and ignore this compliment, or say thank you and ignore him. Thank you. I chose the latter. He nodded and twirled me around after this dance. I would like to have a word with you, he said, and I raised a brow. I already guessed what he wanted to say. Definitely has something to do with marriage and being his Luna. I sighed, then nodded. Yes, was always a problem solver, but no was a troublemaker. Thankfully, the dance ended quickly, and it was time to make a speech on the stage. I turned to my left when I felt a light tap from someone. I saw Kat smiling at me. It's time to get on stage, miss. Time for your big speech, she said mockingly, and I smiled. I reached out to pull her in for a hug. It was needed before I got on stage. Since Jace wasn't here, I just wanted the hug to ease the tension I felt. There, Kat cooed, rubbing my back soothingly. You'll do great, just chill. I obeyed, then pulled away to face her. You're late, I muttered, and she raised her hands in the air in surrender. Sorry, traffic as always. I had no choice but to forgive and let go. I smiled, then patted her hair softly. Merry Christmas. A smile blossomed on her face too, as she returned the greeting. Merry Christmas, Alpha, Erika. After we both had exchanged our usual pleasantries, she went to greet Paula while I walked up to the stage for my speech. Now standing before the entire audience, everyone staring back at me, I cleared my throat with a smile and began. Good evening, everyone. As the Alpha of the Ironclaw Pack, it's an honor to stand before you tonight. I want to start by expressing my gratitude for all of you being here and for your unwavering support. Tonight, we gather not only to celebrate the joyous holiday season, but also to come together as the only people who make up this city, Fangoria. It's a special occasion because this year, I had the privilege of hosting this party in place of my father, who couldn't be here due to illness. My father has always been the heart and soul of our pack, maybe Fangoria too, guiding us with his wisdom and love. And while his absence is deeply felt, I want to take this opportunity to honor him and continue the traditions he instilled in us. Let us remember the true meaning of this season: love, unity, and compassion. It's a time to cherish the bonds we share, to be there for one another, and to spread kindness wherever we go. I am grateful to each and every one of you who are a part of this pack and other packs in Fangoria for your loyalty and love. Together, we are stronger, and together, we will overcome any obstacle that comes our way. So let's raise our glasses and toast to the spirit of Christmas, to love, to family, to the city, and to the Ironclaw Pack. Thank you, and may this holiday season be filled with joy, peace, and endless blessings. I ended the speech in one breath, and what followed afterwards was a round of applause. I stepped down from the stage to meet my friends, who were wiggling their eyebrows at me the moment I stood before them. What? I asked Kat, and she grinned. That was a flawless speech out there, she commented, and Paula gave a nod, also reaching out for another wine glass, when we both slapped her hand. Remember the child, I warned, eyeing her and earning a wine from her. I have this feeling deep in me that you both would bully me in this time of my vulnerability. You guys make me feel left out because I'm pregnant, she lamented, and I gave her a confused look. What are you spitting out now? Bully you when we're trying to keep you away from any potential harm that could befall our unborn little one? Girl, you're heartless, Kat quipped, taking a sip of her own drink. I laughed at them both and shook my head. Paula, for the sake of the unborn child, stay away from wine, I said calmly this time, and it seemed to work because she breathed out and relaxed. That's more like it. Let's go greet more guests, I said, and pulled them to come with me. We went around greeting all the guests again. From one alpha and their pack betas to another, everyone was present. But for some odd reason, I felt that one person wasn't here, and that was the bitch who liked Alex, Serenity June. She was part of Fangoria City and needed to be present at least, but it seemed she still feared me enough to never step foot where I stepped foot in. After everything had been sorted out for the night, I felt exhausted with Cindy being my only support. Noir walked up to me and smiled again. I wasn't even in the mood to discuss, but I still returned the smile. You look exhausted, he said, and I nodded. Can we go over to the balcony? I nodded, sure. But just as he held my hand to lead me towards the balcony, a maid walked forward and bowed. Yes? I asked, and she said Alpha Noir's mother suddenly felt sick and swayed. What? I and Noir asked in unison, and the maid nodded. I turned to look at Noir, and we both made our way to where his mother sat with the others. She was trying hard not to close her eyes, maybe to fight off the sleep about to take her by force. I suggest you take her home. Come find me tomorrow to discuss what you want to, I said to Noir, and he agreed. With the help of some guards, Noir took up his mother and we walked her to the car outside. I waved at them as they got into the car and left for the gate. Just as I turned to walk inside, Alex suddenly stood before me. Can we talk? He asked. I blinked, shaking my head and about to walk past him, and that was when we heard it, an explosion. I turned to the direction of the gate to see that Noir's car, which was heading out, had actually exploded. Noir. Jace's POV. After uncovering every hidden secret about the Wren family and Serenity, it was finally time to take down the organization she built. The main base was finally located, and we even realized that so many people hated the Wren family. There were so many volunteers, people willing to sacrifice their lives just to see the downfall of this organization. It had been more than a week since I and Fagel arrived here and got an easy gateway to the things that brought us here in the first place. We could say the goddess was on our side this time because everything went smoothly. The organization which Serenity controlled happened to be a gang of hoodlums. Watching the so-called base from afar on the horoscope presented only the sights of burly-looking men scattered around at the entrance. Joe and some other men had already arrived at the surroundings, and all that was left was just the fall of darkness. They would start their attack at nightfall. You see that logo? Fagel suddenly called for my attention, and I turned to him. He gestured to the same logo we all had gotten used to. Yes, who knew it was hers? I asked in amusement, and Fagel shrugged as well. No one, he answered, and we both laughed. An underground shady base ran by a woman as young as her. She was indeed a demonic creature, I commented again. Serenity had no heart in her for actually doing all these. We already found out everything behind the choices she made. She knew my father. Her father tried to kill Gridshade, but Gridshade ended up killing her father. Then there was also something Joe didn't tell me. I felt it. He mentioned that I was meant to be an alpha. But how would I become an alpha when Rika was already an alpha? He said if I could be patient till after the fight, he would personally tell me more about the meaning of his words. I had this bad feeling in me that things were just about to go bumpy instead of smooth as expected. I sighed, relaxing into the seat as I watched Fagel bring a cup of coffee over. "It's been so long my wolf went for a run," he commented, and I nodded, taking a sip of the liquid he brought. Indeed, my wolf had not gone for a run in a while. It must hurt, but we still had things to sort out. We stayed there in silence, watching as the sun finally went down and the darkness took over. Night set in and the operation began. Joe and his men were guided by me, Fagel and another tech guy through the laptop in the black van we occupied. The operation should have taken a long time as expected, but in a few minutes' time, the organization blew up and Joe and his men ran out. "That was fast," Fagel yelled out in excitement and clapped his hand repeatedly. I was also surprised, but still holding back my excitement. Joe would explain why the entire process took so fast. Soon, the door to the van was pulled open and Joe climbed in. But there was a huge gash on his stomach and his waistline. He was bleeding profusely as he dragged in ragged breaths. "Damn!" I cursed, helping him take a seat and putting pressure on the wound to stop the bleeding. Joe held my hand and shook his head. "It's of no use. I'll die this time," he gritted out, breathing so heavily as he shut his eyes. "Joe, you can't just die," I yelled, but he shook his head. "I can die happy now, knowing that this organization was turned into ruins. Now it's left for you to find and kill my sister. If she stays alive, none of you would be safe." Joe coughed, blood flowing out of his mouth. "Joe, you didn't even tell me what you promised," I yelled out again, and he smiled. "Of course I'll tell you, but first promise me you will find Serenity and kill her. She is evil and would not hesitate to wipe out your entire pack by hook or crook. She would come to Gridshade again. That is when you will catch and kill her. Jace, now that her organization has been ruined, it's time for you to announce to everyone who she truly is, and please don't forget the evidence I had given to you." He paused again as he coughed out even more blood. Fagel came forward too and stood before us. "Take out your phone and record this," Joe instructed, and Fagel obeyed. Soon the phone was brought out and he began to record. Joe went ahead to say everything about the Wren family and about Serenity. He opened the entire truth to the world and gave a brief nod afterwards. Fagel took the hint to stop recording as he saved the video. "Jace, the truth about you," Joe began, and I gave a listening ear. "You're the true heir of the—" He paused, coughing more and his eyes closing up slowly. "Joe, stay. True heir of what?" I didn't care if I was yelling a lot right now. Joe needed to tell me the truth. "You're the true heir of the Thunderclaw Pack. Ask Alpha." "Jerome." With those last words said, Joe went still. I froze on the spot as those words registered in my mind. Me? The true heir of the Thunderclaw Pack? Jace's POV. Me and Fagel boarded the private plane again back to Fangoria after we had achieved our aim of coming to Avenir City. The Wren family wasn't the main obligation there. It was the organization ran by Serenity. I relaxed into the seats while thinking of what Joe had said to me before his death. I was the heir to the Thunderclaw Pack. He said I should ask Father about it, but Father was still unconscious. Just how was I supposed to find my way around this all? I sighed again, not even knowing where to begin. The plane finally arrived at Fangoria's airport the next day, and 2 chauffeurs were already awaiting us with 2 cars. The guards we went with, one of them had unfortunately died during the operation, while the other 2 survived. We went into the car and drove off, back to the pack house. I was hoping to see Erika, Kat, or anyone at the entrance awaiting us, but no one was there when we arrived. "Where is everyone?" I asked the moment I got down from the car. A maid at the corner walked forward and bowed. "Welcome back, Your Highness," she greeted, and I hummed. "Where is the Alpha and everyone else?" I asked again. The Alpha and her friends are currently at the hospital, she answered, and I frowned. Hospital? What for? On the day of the annual Christmas party, Alpha Noir and his mother had also arrived at the party, but his mother got sick and the Alpha suggested that he take her home. While they drove away from the pack house, their car suddenly exploded, she explained, and my eyes widened. What? I and Fagel yelled out in unison. She nodded. Explosion? But how? Fagel asked in surprise. That we do not know. But Alpha Noir's mother is dead and Alpha Noir hasn't woken up yet. At those words, I pulled Fagel as we climbed back into the car. Drive to the hospital. I instructed the driver and immediately, the car left the pack house and straight to the hospital. Do you think it has something to do with Serenity? I asked Fagel and he nodded. It definitely has something to do with her, he replied. This Serenity girl was going too far with her actions, and it was time to expose her for who she truly is. The ride to the hospital took a while, but we soon arrived. Once the car stopped at the entrance, I climbed down from it and headed straight into the hospital to find the others. Entering the corner, I was met with Kat, Erika, Paula, and Alex sitting there. I immediately confirmed the maid's words. Rika, I called out to Erika, and at the sound of my voice, she turned towards my direction in a hurry and seeing me, she dashed towards me as excitement filled her facial features. Jace, she yelled out, and she crashed into my arms, her tears falling endlessly. I'm glad you're back. I pulled away to look at her and saw the smile on her face. What happened? I asked, and she sighed. Come take a seat first, she said, and pulled me to come sit down. Noir and his mother had an accident, she said. I shook my head at the word she used. This was no accident. No, I said, and she raised a brow. What do you mean, no? She asked me. Kat also walked up to me to pull me into her arms for a brief hug before she pulled away. Tell us what happened. Did you succeed? Erika asked impatiently, and I glanced at all the faces staring back at me in the room. It's a long story, but we found the masterminder, I announced as a frown settled on my face. The person behind my kidnapped father's poisoning, Tassira's kidnap, and every other misfortune. Including your divorce. What? At the divorce part, she raised a brow and narrowed her eyes. I nodded in return at her. Yes, that person is none other than Serenity. Erika and the others blinked at my words. What? They all asked in unison, while I dragged in a long breath. Serenity June, that you all know, is not who you think she is. Her real name is Serenity Wren, and she knew our family from the start, because her father and our father and Gridshade, of course, had a business they did before. But father pulled away and Gridshade continued. Eventually things got messy, and her father tried to kill Gridshade, so Gridshade killed him instead. I paused, taking a gulp of water that was offered to me by Fagel. Jace, what are you saying? Rika asked, and I nodded. Everything I said right now is the truth. Serenity Wren runs her father's organization, and this organization are filled with nothing but hoodlums and criminals. Jace, are you sure about all these? It was Alex asking this time, and I smirked. I came with proof. It would be worthless if I don't back up my claims with proof, I said, and fished out the recording of Joe saying everything. Everyone gathered around me as I played the video. Here, this man in this video is Joe Wren, Serenity's stepbrother. He narrated everything about them, and as you can see, he is wounded, and it was all because of trying to take down Serenity's organization. I fished out another photo of Serenity, ones that the CCTV cameras had caught of her multiple times conversing with some men in black and handing them a few things. This here is Serenity Wren, and she is in Avenir City. When they all watched the evidence, everyone had their eyes widened in shock. Finally, I have exposed Serenity. Alex got mad and moved to make a phone call. Find Serenity anywhere she is and drag her to the Ironclaw Pack house. I heard him order, and I turned to Erika. Our eyes met, and I nodded at her. She is responsible for Father's condition? She asked me, her voice shaking and eyes glowing red. I nodded, and all hell broke loose as she stood up as well. It was now or never. /N dear readers. I want to thank you for your continued support and interest in my work. However, I'm currently dealing with some health issues, and as a result, I'm only able to write 1 chapter per day. I appreciate your understanding and patience during this difficult time. I hope to be back to my usual writing schedule soon, and I look forward to sharing more of my work with you all. Thank you. Alex's POV. Erika, wait. I called out, my voice filled with desperation, but she kept walking, her pace quickening. Please, just give me a chance, I pleaded, desperately trying to catch up to her. Erika, I yelled out again, holding her hand and finally getting her attention. She turned to look at me, her eyes burning with hatred. I gulped, taking in deep breaths as I tried to form words. What do you want? To apologize. I blurted out. It won't work, she replied and tried to leave, but I held her back again. Erika, please just give me 2 minutes of your time. You're not even worth a second of my time and you think I'll give you 2 minutes? Look, Alpha Alexander, whatever you have to say to me, I don't want to hear it. You can shove it down your throat, she yelled out and snatched her hand away from mine. Erika turned and walked out of the hospital. This is your chance to get our mate, Elijah cooed in my head, and I scoffed. Elijah, calm your claws. I bolted out of the hospital, determined to catch up with her. She was on the verge of getting into her car when I finally made it outside, rushing to halt her. Erika, can't you just give me a moment to explain? I pleaded, my voice filled with desperation. She forcefully pushed me away, her alpha strength evident. Alex, I don't want to hear it. Why did it feel like convincing women had become an impossible task these days? She tried to climb into the car again, but I pulled her back again, and she turned to glare at me. Erika, I'm sorry for everything that happened, I said calmly, and she froze. I know I was a douchebag in the past, believing Serenity over my own wife and Luna, but I wanted to make things right. Erika wasn't to blame at all, and now that I discovered the evidence against Saren, I realized I had been in the wrong. I had been deceiving myself, thinking I could earn her forgiveness and promising to leave her if she didn't want me back. But the truth is, I want Erika back so badly. You know that saying, you don't know what you have until you lose it? Well, it was definitely true. All those years we spent together, Erika put in so much effort to keep the Moonforest Pack united. She made sacrifices, even giving up her alpha position, just to be with me. And I never appreciated everything she did until now. I got it. I understood why she was so angry and who she was aiming that anger at. I was a scumbag, and I was ready to change. I was willing to do whatever it takes, even if it means giving up everything the Moonforest Pack owns. I would do anything to get her back into my life. You're sorry? Oh, all right, she said nonchalantly, and still turned around to enter her car. I frowned and pulled her back. Is that all you have to say? I asked her, and she scoffed. What do you want me to say? Look, I don't want to have anything to do with you or your pack. Whatever we had was in the past, and I want it to remain in the past. Go and rule your pack, while I rule mine. She spat out, and don't you ever touch me again. I won't hesitate to unleash my wrath on the entire Moonforest Pack if you do that again. There was fury in her eyes as she finally climbed into her car this time. She shut the door with a loud bang and sped out of the hospital environment, leaving me standing there and watching the car. Damn, this is so hard, I murmured, raking a hand through my damp hair as it was still snowing. Of course it's going to be hard. Remember when I told you that you would regret your decisions back then? Elijah asked me. I couldn't find the words to reply, so I stayed quiet. You can always stay silent. I told you back then that you would eat your words. He laughed. I sighed. Serenity has ruined my life. I muttered, my heart squeezing in pain. That is why we have to find and kill her. She deserves death. Elijah was right. Serenity caused all the misfortunes in my life, and the best punishment for her was death. I walked to my own car and pulled out my phone once I climbed into the car. I placed a call across to Gage. Yes? Did you find her? Actually, no. Serenity has gone into hiding. I don't know how she found out about it, but she left the pack house even before your call to capture her came in. Damn it. Gage, you have to find her no matter what. She has to pay for everything she has caused us. I gritted out. Gage hummed in response and ended the call. Where the hell are we supposed to find her? She can't leave the city, can she? Elijah questioned. She can't. Erika already ordered that every train station, airport, and bus stations be closed down for now. I explained to him. What about the seaport? I rolled my eyes at my wolf's stupidity. It's the winter season. The sea is frozen. I reminded him, and he sighed. All right then, she would definitely still be in the city. Yes. Let's go over to the supposed orphanage she said she worked in, I said, and started the car, zooming off from the hospital premises as well. I would find Serenity, either by hook or crook. Erika's POV. Erika, not now, Cat. I yelled back as I stomped my way into the pack house. Can you just hear us out? Even Cindy chimed in. No, I replied harshly, making sure they got my point when I said the big no. Erika, please. Cat called out again and pulled me by my arm. Everyone seemed to love pulling my arm lately. She turned me around to face her and glared at me. Can you quit with that attitude? No. So what? I asked, folding my arms on my chest. Erika, I know you're... Wait a sec. I interrupted her, raising my hand to halt her words. Before you start going on about how Alex is begging for my forgiveness and wants me back, let me tell you something. I made a deal with my father. I signed a contract promising that I would never be with another man after my divorce. I would serve this pack alone. And what about your legacy? Didn't either of you consider that? She immediately fired back, leaving me speechless. Cat got your tongue, huh? I rolled my eyes and replied. Look, I don't give a damn about Alex anymore. I can't just go back to him. Let me explain why I don't care about him and why I don't want to go back. I will never forgive him for the humiliation he put me through. Even though he didn't know my true identity back then, wasn't he supposed to listen to his wife, support her, and not believe Serenity's lies? He accused me of wanting to harm Serenity and actually believed her. He divorced me. So why should I even consider going back to him? I won't. Erika, listen. Listen up, Cat. I'm done listening to you. From now on, I want absolutely nothing to do with the Moonforest Pack. No one from that pack is welcome here, except for Paula. If Alex is dumb enough to set foot anywhere near this pack house, I give full permission to lock him up for trespassing. This is my turf now, and I won't tolerate any more nonsense. Got it? With those words said, I turned around to head to the meeting room, where the elders awaited my arrival for the meeting. Again, Cat was persistent. She pulled my arm again, turning me to face her. Cat, I drawl, just about to lash out when she said, Alex is not at fault, Erika. Oh yeah, I'm the one at fault. I nodded in agreement and snorted. Listen to me. It all started with your father. I'm sorry to say this, but if anyone is to blame for the recent happenings and for your marriage failure, it should be your father and not Alex. Excuse me? I asked, raising a questioning brow. My father is what? That my father is responsible? What the fuck are you saying to me now, Katrina? She sighed, rubbing her temples as if to soothe the headache coming in. This whole thing began with your fathers. It began with your father, Gridshade, and Serenity's father. If they hadn't known each other then, and had that failed business filled with nothing but lies and greed, this day would never come, she reasoned, removing her hair from her face. What are you trying to say? You want to blame it all on the past? Kat, you can't justify Alex's actions. He believed another woman that wasn't me. Let's say Jace does that with Tessira. He believes Tessira over you in everything. How would that make you feel? I'll kill him. Exactly. I also want to kill Alex. But Erika, we've said enough for the day. I'll be in the meeting room, I said, and turned to leave. This time she didn't stop me from leaving as I walked out of the room to the meeting room. I pushed down every talk about Alex as I walked into the room. The pack elders all stood up to acknowledge me as I came in to sit. Greetings, Alpha Erika. They echoed, and I nodded in return. Hello, elders. We all sat down as I took a sip of the wine before me. This meeting was hosted on behalf of the current happenings in the pack. The thing about Noir and his mother also? As you all know, there was an explosion just outside the pack a few days ago. And I'm sorry to inform you that the Luna Queen of the Thunderclaw Pack is dead, I announced, and watched their faces for reactions. Their reactions weren't much, considering the Thunderclaw Pack were another pack of their own. They could worry for themselves. Alpha, can I ask a question about the previous Alpha, your father? One of the elders began, and I had no choice but to comply. What is the case of Alpha Jerome currently? He asked, as a serious look appeared on his face. I bit my lower lip and explained. We've delivered all the necessary treatments to him, and just hope that one day he will eventually wake up. The doctor said it could be in some years to come. So yes, the Alpha would be fine, I assured him. The elder shook his head pitifully as he refrained from asking any more questions. There is bigger news at hand. The masterminder behind the never-ending targets this pack has been facing has been found out. We aim to catch her soon and punish her for the crimes she has committed. A she? One of the elders asked. Yes. She is a female, and her name is Serenity Wren. Erika's POV. The search for Serenity never seemed to end, and after several days, we still hadn't found any positive leads. She had a knack for disappearing without a trace. As I stepped out of the room and into the living room, a maid approached me with news that Alex had arrived. Tell him to leave, I immediately responded upon hearing his name. She hesitated, glancing at me, and I raised an eyebrow in curiosity. What's the matter? Nothing, Alpha. I'll make sure he goes away, she assured me before quickly scurrying off. I rubbed my hands together, feeling the cold seeping in slowly. As the new year approached in just a week's time, the thought of my father still lying on a sickbed squeezed my heart in my chest. I walked towards his chambers, the very place where we kept him secluded from the others. The guard at the entrance respectfully bowed and stepped aside as I entered his bedroom. There, on the bed, lay my father, his usual imposing presence replaced by stillness. I slowed my steps, feeling the weight of his absence in our lives and in our pack. A small smile appeared on my face as I blinked away the tears. Father looked so calm and peaceful. My heart reached out to him, wishing he would just move a finger or, even better, open his eyes to see me. I pulled a stool from the corner and made myself comfortable on it as I watched him. His handsome features, despite being old, still looked so perfect. Remembering that Serenity was the one responsible for his condition made me clench my fist in anger. Father never deserved this. Just like Jace said before, Father pulled away from the business, and Gridshade was the only one who continued, so I see no reason why Father has to suffer everything. I see no reason why Serenity has to do all these, go extra miles just to avenge her dead father. She was punishing mine who never even had a hand in her father's death. This was the reason why I would never forgive her and everyone who once supported her. Everyone, including Alex. They all believed her and not me, so I see no reason to actually spare any one of them. Father, we finally know the truth, I said softly, biting my lower lip as I waited for a reaction from him. My thoughts couldn't help drifting back to Maid Malice. She worked for Serenity, so where could she be at the moment? If Father ever finds out that Maid Malice was one of them, he would be greatly disappointed in her. I was already as disappointed as I can be. Even Malice turned evil, I drawled as I recalled how we found out the truth about her, and the things she said about being rich. I smiled softly. Malice knew nothing at that time. And to be honest, I didn't hate her. I was just disappointed in her. Disappointed that she chose a stupid part of following Serenity because of money. I opened my mouth to lament again when a knock came at the door. A frown made its way to my face as I turned to the door again. The reason for this disturbance better be worth it, as I was so close to snapping. I stood up and went to the door instead. No one was allowed in here without my consent. The maid from earlier was the one again. I frowned, already guessing why she was here. Alex refused to leave? I asked, and she sighed. Not only that, Alpha. He is kneeling before the pack house, under the snow. What? I asked, surprise flashing in my eyes. Kneeling under the snow? For what? He says he won't leave until you see him. At those words, a smile made its way to my face. Alex said he wouldn't leave until I came out to see him? Interesting. So he wants to remain in the cold until I come out to see him? I asked, folding my hand over my chest. The maid looked up at me and nodded. All right then. Just let him chill outside, and when he is done waiting, he can leave, I said, and turned to walk back into my father's chambers. Alex could do whatever he wanted. If he thinks that I would react and just walk out to see him just because he wants to kill himself, then he was joking. I made myself comfortable beside my father as I continued with my laments about how Serenity was evil, and all. Soon it was time to leave him to rest. I sighed, looked outside to see that the weather had darkened already. Jace had gone out with Kat to continue the search for Serenity, and I had to stay at the pack for the meeting with the elders. I expected them to return by now, but when I walked into the living room, there wasn't any sign of the both of them. Is Kat and Jace back? I asked a guard on duty, and he shook his head. No, Alpha, they haven't returned, he said, and I frowned. What is taking them so long? I muttered, nodding as I reached for my phone to call them. Just as I brought the phone to my ear, the front door swung open and they walked in. But they weren't alone. They were helping Alex into the house, and instantly, anger surged through me. I couldn't believe it. While I was worried about them, they were busy helping Alex. Stop, I yelled out without hesitation, and they both froze in their tracks. Alex appeared cold and exhausted, his head hanging low. What do you both think you're doing? I asked, raising my eyebrow. Erika, Alex has been out there this whole time. We should go check on him. He might not be okay. Wait a second, I said, my frown deepening. He's not welcome here. Take him back to where you found him. His pack members will come to get him. Erika, Jace, you heard me. Get Alex out of here right now, I yelled again, my mind clouded with anger. Jace watched me in disbelief, but I was far from noticing and glared at the three of them. Take him away! Send him back to his pack, Erika Cindy called out. Not now, Cindy. Without a second thought, Jace and Kat turned around to take him away. I was boiling over and would have pushed them out if they hadn't taken him away. Once they were out of sight, I breathed and directly walked to the couch to sit down. Alex was the least of my problems right now. Erika, why did you become so heartless? I heard a voice from the entrance and turned to see Jace and Kat walking into the house. Thankfully, they were alone this time. Did you send him back? I asked instead, but Kat fired back. Erika, he is sorry. Kat, watch it, I yelled back, standing up to my full height, and I watched her. I was not about to let them disrespect me because of Alex. I didn't want to have anything to do with him, and I hoped it remained that way. I won't be so nice to him if I see him here again, I said, and turned to walk upstairs. Though a part of me was angry at my actions, that part of me being Cindy, I still didn't care. What Alex did and said to me in the past was far more hurting than this one, so no one was allowed to think I was being cruel. That very day he made me kneel down to apologize to Serenity was the very day I hated Alex and his pack. I just wanted them out of my life and wanted nothing to do with Alex, no matter what. I walked into my room and relaxed on the bed to rest. Tomorrow, I would go in search of Serenity by myself. Erika's POV. The next morning, I woke up to a still dim day, but I had a good reason for waking up. It was because this dream, or more like a thought, popped into my head. I couldn't shake off the idea of finding Serenity, and the very place my mind took me was Southside. Even if Serenity wouldn't be there, I had this hunch that it might lead me to some clues. I climbed off the bed and straight to my bathroom to take a quick shower. Then I walked to my closet to pick out a black t-shirt and a black leather jacket. I matched it with a pair of black pants and black boots. This was going to be bumpy, so I needed to look anything but elegant. I picked up my phone, texted Jace, knowing he would still be asleep by now. He would read the text when he woke up. I walked out of the room and straight downstairs to the entrance. Hand me the car keys. I ordered the guards at the entrance, and they stared at me like I had grown a second head. The keys, I yelled out softly, and the guard handed the key over to me. Just as I walked out to take a car, I sighted someone at the corner, standing and probably taking in some deep, refreshing nature's breeze. When the person turned to look in my direction, I looked closely to see the familiar person. Fagel? He suddenly ran up to me and bowed the moment he stopped before me. "Your Highness," he said, his head still lowered. I chuckled and extended a hand to pat his broad shoulders. "What are you doing here?" I asked, and he finally looked up at me, receiving the early morning inspiration. Fagel's words sounded weird to me, but I nodded in return and turned around to walk away. "Your Highness, I'm sorry to ask this question, but where are you off to so early in the morning?" he suddenly asked, halting me in place. I turned, masking my thoughts with a smile. "To check on something," I said, trying to keep my face as focused as possible, but failing miserably. "It's an obvious lie. You're dressed so weird, and please don't tell me you're just about to go look for Serenity alone." Ah, he sure is smart. He caught me so fast. I stuttered. "Alpha, let me go with you." "What?" I asked in surprise. I expected him to stop me, but he offered to come along? That was unexpected. "I'll drive you to where you want to go, but I'll be back," he said, and walked into the mansion. He walked out after some time. My gaze still lingered on him in surprise. "Let's go," he said, and I tossed him the car keys. We walked to the car, and he actually went to pull the door open for me. I nodded in gratitude and climbed into the car. Soon, we left the mansion and hit the road. Being the early hours of the morning, the road looked clear and silent, devoid of any person, and just a few cars passed by. Fagel drove directly to the south side as instructed. "You know the south side?" I asked him from the back, and he hummed in response. "Yes, Alpha, I know the south side." I stayed silent as he drove for a while before maneuvering through the highway and hitting the south side road. Soon, we arrived at the forest that I had found Jace back then. Though I didn't know the base, I felt that Serenity might have visited there, and I would look for the place. "Are you coming?" I asked as I pushed the door open. "Of course." I looked at him in surprise and just shrugged. The moment we climbed out of the car, I walked over to his side and tossed him a gun. His eyes widened momentarily, while I flashed him an adorable smile. "Self-defense, they would have a firearm too," I said, and he nodded. Once I knew he had been convinced, I turned around and walked towards the forest. Fagel followed behind me, silently, as we walked further and further into the part. My senses were heightened and I watched every corner of the forest, making sure I missed nothing as we kept walking. Deep down, I had a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach, but I pushed it aside. I needed to take this step for the good of everyone. Finding Serenity was our main obligation, and if she was found, we would definitely be saved. I stopped, turning to see if Fagel was still behind me. Once I confirmed that he was still following, I turned around and continued walking. Sooner than expected, we arrived at a building not so far from us. The huge gates gave me an eerie feeling just staring at it from a distance. I gulped down my saliva and turned to look at Fagel. "I guess that's the base," I said, and he nodded. "It definitely is," he confirmed. "Let's go," I said, and he nodded as we both continued to walk towards the place. "Erika, this is dangerous." It's not too late to turn around. Suddenly I heard Jace's voice in my head. He spoke to me through the mind link. He must have woken up early. "Don't worry, Jace. I got this." I mind linked back. "You've got nothing. Get out of there." I ignored him and walked further. Erika listened to Jace. Cindy, who'd been quiet due to anger from what happened yesterday, finally spoke up. I smirked and replied, "So you're still here?" She ignored me again as I also proceeded to the gates. Once I stood before the gates, I breathed out and extended a hand to push the doors open. There were no guards at the entrance, which meant that they used traps instead of guards. I already knew this strategy, and only Serenity would be that petty and wicked enough to even think of such a method. "Be careful. I think there's a trap here," I said to Fagel, and he nodded. I slowly but carefully walked into the place, making sure to take in the sights of everything on the floor. As expected, the entire place was empty with no one in sight. They might have fled the scene, knowing we could come at any time. I walked further in, pulling out a silver blade as we reached the only door that led inside. This was the place where Jace was kept, and remembering it made my blood boil. I pushed the door open and walked into the house. "Erika, listen. You have to turn around." Cindy was at it again. I rolled my eyes at her words. "I'll be fine," I said, and just shut her out. As we made a right turn, a person's voice suddenly caught my attention. "Help," was what we heard from that direction. We both turned towards the direction of the voice. Instantly, I recognized it. Before I could move in that direction, Fagel restrained me. "Your Highness, it's not safe to rush in blindly. I know that voice. It's Melissa." I pulled my arm free from his grip and dashed towards the sound without hesitation. As I approached the door where her voice seemed to originate, I pushed it open and hurried inside. To my surprise, the door led outside instead of to a room. Before I could comprehend what was happening, a hand sprayed something on my face, sapping my strength. Out of nowhere, someone lifted me and threw me into a waiting van. I glimpsed Fagel being restrained, while Melissa looked on with a smirk. Despite everything that had happened, she hadn't changed her ways. She still sided with Serenity. Dizziness overwhelmed me, and I blacked out. Alex's POV. "Erika," I jolted awake in shock, yelling out her name as cold sweat broke out on my forehead. It felt so real, like she was in danger. In the dream, I saw her being abducted, and my gut told me that something was definitely not right at the Ironclaw Pack. I needed to know what was going on. I turned to the right to see Gage staring at me and giving me his usual pointed look. I sighed, rubbing my forehead as he suddenly asked, "What's wrong?" I shook my head, refusing to tell him what was up. "You can't just shake your head when you just jolted up right now, calling out your ex-wife's name as if something happened. Tell me you had a nightmare." "Was she in it?" he pressed, and I nodded. "Yes, I want to see Erika," I blurted out instead, and Gage shook his head in disapproval. "Definitely not. You were brought back last night half dead," he yelled, standing up to his feet as he glared at me. Erika loathes you and doesn't want to see you, so you'd better stay far away from her. I rubbed my head again and shook my head. You don't understand. I really need to see her and make sure she is all right. This nightmare was one where she got abducted, so I have to be sure she is fine, I said, and without a second thought, I climbed out of bed and headed straight to my wardrobe to pick out a shirt. Despite the winter season and the aircon in the room, I still had sweat running down my forehead, as the thought that something might have happened to her settled in my mind. Once I was dressed, I walked out of the room, or more like sprinted out of the room as I headed downstairs. Though I still felt the effect of what happened earlier, one where I was left in the snow for too long. But what mattered most was making sure my Luna was all right. Your Luna? You believe me now? Elijah asked in a mocking tone, and I rolled my eyes. Gage busily chased after me as we sprinted out of the pack house and to the car outside. I just hoped that this dream was just a dream, and Erika was all right. It was better she looked at me in disdain than gets taken away from me. Once I got to the car, I pulled the door open as the guards tossed me the keys. Alex, Gage thundered again, and I looked up at him. You're still sick, he yelled out, and I rolled my eyes at him. Get in the car if you're coming along, came my response, and he had no other choice but to climb into the car with me. I drove off from the pack house, and soon hit the highways as we drove straight towards the Ironclaw Pack. The weather was already brightened, and for some reason, the day looked extremely bright. I ignored the amazing weather, driving at full speed, and soon arriving at the Ironclaw Pack house. Once we pulled into the driveway, I bolted out of the car and made my way to the entrance. Just as I intended to dash into the place, I saw Erika's brother, Jace, sprinted out of the house with his mate, as if they were both in a hurry. There were also tons of guards as they filled the entire place. Without being told twice, I knew something was wrong. I walked over to her brother, who looked anxious as his mate tried to calm him down. Jace, I called out, and he turned towards me. I expected a look of disdain or anger, like Erika always harbored, but he just walked up to me with a surprised look. Alpha Alexander, why are you here? Have you recovered? He took me by surprise, but I still gave a polite answer. Yes, I'm all right now, I confirmed. Is Erika all right? At those words, Jace sighed and ran a hand through his hair. He looked at me, and I saw pain flashed in his eyes as he said, I have the most stubborn sister in the world. His words didn't make sense, but I tried to connect the dots. What happened? She went in search of serenity alone. What? At those words, I felt something shook inside of me as dread and fear took over me. She went after Saren alone? Why would Erika do such a thing? Why would she do such a thing? I asked as panic began to set in. No one knows, but she is extremely stubborn. Now we don't even know what happened to her since our mind link was cut off. Jace sighed again, and I clenched my fist. How could Erika be that reckless to take on such a dangerous mission alone? How did she intend to sort it out alone? But how do we find her? I blurted out again without knowing it, and Jace looked up at me in surprise. Will you help? He asked, and I nodded. Of course I would help in finding her. A look of gratitude flashed in his eyes, and before he could open his mouth to say one more word, a car drove into the premises of the Ironclaw Pack house. We all turned to the direction of the car as Jace seemed to recognize it. Our car? He asked as he moved forward. The car door was pushed open, and a man stumbled out of the car and crashed to the floor. Fagel! Jace yelled out and rushed over to the Fagel guy. I didn't know who Fagel was, so I just stood still as Jace helped the Fagel guy to the front porch. We all followed suit, anticipating his words. This is Fagel, and he left with Erika, Jace's mate explained, seeing the look of confusion on me and Gage's face. He went with Erika? I rushed over to him immediately as Jace kept putting pressure on his heart to keep him awake. Fagel, stay, he yelled out and continued to put pressure on Fagel's chest. After a while of doing that, Fagel opened his eyes thankfully, and Jace wasted no time to ask him about Erika's whereabouts. Fagel went ahead to also explain what happened and where they went. He also explained how Erika was tricked and tossed into a van. My heart pained at those words, and I looked up at Jace when he stood up straight. "We have to visit that base," he declared. I was confused about the base, but I nodded, deciding to go over to the base with them. Jace rushed over to his car and his mate followed. "No, stay here and take care of things here," he suddenly said to her, and she obeyed. Jace climbed into his car after instructing some guards to take Fagel inside. He also called out to all the guards that filled the entire premises, ordering them to follow suit as we all also got into our cars and sped off from the pack house. I was anxious. I just hoped Erika would be fine and Serenity wouldn't do anything to her. If anything eventually happens to Erika, I would never spare Serenity. Alex's POV. As we were driving through the city, I saw that Jace's car suddenly veered off and headed towards the south side. I couldn't help wondering why he was going in that direction. I glanced at Gage, hoping for some insights, but he just shrugged. Was Erika on the south side? I decided to stay silent and follow them, curious about their destination. They continued driving without signs of stopping, leaving us wondering where they were going. Soon, the car pulled over, including the other cars the bodyguards were tailing us with. I frowned but still stayed silent until we all highlighted from the car. I walked over to Jace and raised a brow, which he understood instantly. I was once kidnapped and brought here. Erika came to see if Serenity hid here. He went ahead to explain, and realization dawned on me. Erika might as well have been kidnapped. Knowing this made me wonder why Erika would even think of coming here with just one man. She knew just how and when to be silly. "What's the way forward?" I asked, and he sighed. The base is located at the heart of the forest. It's actually a small base, nothing compared to the one she owned in Avenir City. He explained again. I nodded in understanding as he led the way to the supposed heart of the forest. The floor was completely covered in twigs and leaves due to the winter season. As we walked on them wearing our boots, they made sounds, creating a crunching melody beneath our feet. We walked for a while before arriving at the base. Carefully, we raided the place, searching for any clue to where they might have taken Erika to. The entire place was messy, and I noticed traps in every corner, even before Jace informed us about them. We searched the entire place but still found nothing after searching for a while. The bodyguards with us even went ahead to raid the bushes behind, but still nothing. We saw the car tire prints on the floor, but after tracing it for a while, it led to nowhere. This is a big problem. Jace sighed in frustration and ran a hand through his hair. If the people find out that the Alpha of the Ironclaw Pack have been abducted, this would be a big problem to the entire pack. It would cause a war to break out too. He lamented, and I understood his point. Indeed, a missing Alpha was equivalent to the downfall of a pack. Just as we stayed there thinking of what to do next, my phone beeped, and I went ahead to pull it out. Checking the screen, I saw a text from an unknown number, as well as a link attached to the message. A frown formed on my face, but I went ahead to open it. What I saw next in that link made my hand tremble and my heart hammered in my ribcage. "Jace," I subconsciously yelled out, and he came to look into my phone, curious to know why I screamed. When he looked down at the phone and saw what was being displayed on the screen, a gasp of horror left his mouth, including Gage's. Right on the screen of my phone was of Erika seemingly tied at a mountain and held out on a cliff, which meant that if the rope cuts, Erika would directly fall to her death. She was gagged as she glared at the camera that was used to record her. "What the hell?" Jace yelled, his hand also trembling as he ran it through his hair. "Who knows that cliff?" I asked, glancing at both Gage and Jace. Jace shook his head. "I don't know the cliff." "I know the cliff," Gage accepted, and my heart leapt with joy. "Take us there now," I demanded, and rushed over to the car. But Gage called my attention back. "There's no need to take the car. The cliff is just a few walks from here." I frowned at that. "A few walks from here? Can you take us there?" Jace asked him as his voice shook with emotions. Gage nodded and gestured towards the part we had to take. This journey of ours seemed so funny and unreal, but we had to journey it for Erika's sake. We trailed off towards the north, since the south was where the base was located. The journey took a while as we kept walking. I glared at Gage once in a while, each time he said we still had a few minutes to arrive. We have been walking for the goddess knows how long, and he still said a few minutes to arrive. Thankfully, the weather changed and the snow fell heavier, signaling that indeed we were getting closer to our destination. From the video clip, I could see that the snow was falling heavier in the location where Erika was gagged and tied up. Finally, we reached the top of the cliff where I saw in the video. Lo and behold, Erika was indeed there, tied up and dangling. But the funniest thing was, for someone who was tied up and was dangling from the cliff, she wasn't showing any fear. Her gaze was sharp and angry as she glared in a particular direction. "Erika!" Jace yelled out her name and tried to run towards her. But she shook her head continuously, telling him not to come any closer. He seemed not to have understood the gesture, because he continued moving towards her. That was when something happened. He stepped on something that actually electrocuted Erika, who was apparently tied up with cables. Seeing her convulse uncontrollably until Jace moved his leg, my heart shattered, and I felt my blood run cold in anger. How could Saren do this to her? Elijah was thrashing around, trying to get closer to her and help her off those cables. The cold and the cables would go a long way to causing her lots of damage. I looked down, thinking it was just the location where Jace had stepped on, that had the button that could trigger the electrocution again, so I decided to take a step as well. But when I took a step forward, I saw Erika shake her head at the same time she was electrocuted again. Seeing her convulse again made me convulse for some unknown reason. "Fuck, we have to get her out of there," Jace yelled as tears pulled in his eyes. "Not so fast," we heard a voice say from behind, and we all turned to see Serenity, sitting at the top of the other mountaintop with a microphone in hand. She chuckled, seeing the look of shock that flashed in our eyes. If anyone had told me that she would be this evil, I would never believe it. Serenity used to be such a nice and caring person, nothing like the demon she became. She was never nice or caring. "Quit that thought," Elijah chanted in disdain. "Serenity, what's the meaning of all these?" I asked, loud enough to wake a mountain bear if there was any. She laughed again and shook her head. "It's just a little show I put up for you, love," she replied, and I frowned. She called torturing a show? We watched her slowly climb down from the mountain with 2 men following behind her with a gun, probably with silver bullets. She came to stand just a few meters away from where we stood. "Surprised, right?" she asked, and I blinked. "Serenity, are you crazy? Why would you do this to Erika when it was just the things of your fathers in the past? Why would you treat her like she committed a huge crime?" A frown made its way to her face this time. "You think she is innocent?" "Yes." "Lies. Erika is not innocent." She shook her head. "Then what the fuck did she do to you?" Jace asked in anger, clenching and unclenching his fist. "Erika killed my brother." Erika's POV. So the person who I had killed that day on the cliff was Serenity's brother? I listened carefully, despite freezing as she explained her brother's side of the story and how he came forward, towards me. Because of that electrocution just now, I felt my senses dull and exhaustion sipping into my bones. I felt lightheaded, the gag on my mouth adding to my discomfort, but I could clearly make out some of the words from them. I watched Serenity acting like the victim and I as the villainess who killed her innocent brother. If I hadn't killed her brother, he would have killed me. so everything I did was also out of self-defense. But all these were the least of my worries. My main surprise was that Alex was helping. He was actually confronting Serenity on my behalf. I watched in silence as their conversations continued. Serenity, leave Erika alone. You don't need to punish her. It was all self-defense. Say that again, and I'll drop her down there, Serenity replied with a psychopathic smile. Alex swallowed and turned in my direction again, but I averted my gaze from his. Don't drop it, he said in a soft tone. What if I propose something? I frowned at that question. Proposing what? Propose what? She asked. Since you've always wanted me, I'll give myself to you, but in exchange. You have to let Erika go. At those words, I felt my heartbeat accelerate. And before I could hold myself back, I found myself shaking my head and trying to lash out at Serenity. How dare Alex make such a proposal? Serenity's face broke out into a small smile as she stared between me and Alex. I could consider that, she said, and I shook my head again. She raised a questioning brow at me. Why are you shaking your head? Don't tell me you still feel something for him after everything he did to you? I blinked, her words bringing me back to reality. Indeed, why was I reacting this way? After everything he did to me, I'm supposed to loathe him so much and wish him evil. But I did nothing of such and even want to save. I looked up at Alex, and his gaze met mine as well. We stared at each other for a while, before I averted my gaze to fix it on Serenity. I gulp, not being able to understand how I feel at the moment. I'll take your silence as a no. You don't love him. So I'll have him. I clenched my fist in anger, envisioning the union of Alex and Serenity. It left a sore taste on my tongue, just imagining them together. I hated Alex for how he treated me, but I just couldn't find myself hating him at this point. He did everything he did in the past because he was manipulated by that bitch. Kat was right that he has changed. He is willing to give himself in exchange for me to be saved. Someone go loosen her up, I heard her say, and a guard began to walk forward. I breathed in and out, knowing that I would be set free from these shackles soon. Finally, the guard loosened all the cables and brought me down. I fell on my knees the moment my feet touched the ground. Jace rushed over to me while the other guards pulled Alex over. The same spray that was sprayed in my face, the one that weakened my alpha strength, was also sprayed on him, and he went weak. Serenity beamed at me and said, I let you go today because he said I should. I can forgive all of you as long as Alex and I get mated to each other. Over my dead body will I let Alex end up with that lady. I mustered up the strength and flung the dagger I had stolen from the guard, who loosened me in his direction. The silver blade went through, and the guard dropped dead, leaving just one guard and Serenity. A small smirk formed on my face the moment I saw the horror that flashed in her eyes. How dare you? She shrieked, and my guards already surrounded her, trapping her in a circle and rendering her helpless. Serenity glared at me and said, I gave you one chance to be set free, but you chose to be stupid. Now watch how I destroy you and all your men. The moment she finished those words, silver blades flew from different directions towards my men. The blades killed all my men in one swift motion. Dread filled me as I glanced at Jace, who glared at her. But I saw no one around, the people that might have flung those blades out. Serenity laughed out loud, finally losing it as she stared at me with a smirk. You know, I would have killed your brother as exchange for mine, but he isn't a Blackwood. There goes that talk about not being a Blackwood. What do you mean he is not a Blackwood? I yelled out, angering clouding my mind hearing all of these. She smiled and looked at Jace. Why don't you tell her? I blinked at those words, then turned to Jace. Jace, tell me what? What are you hiding from me? I asked, my voice betraying the confidence I was trying to portray. Jace bit his lips and averted his gaze. Erika, he drawled. I clenched my fist and asked through gritted teeth. Jace, tell me the truth. Are you a Blackwood or not? He stayed silent for a while and finally decided to spill the truth. I am not a Blackwood. I shivered at those words, the same words I wished would be a lie all these while. If you're not a Blackwood, then who are you? I yelled out as tears began to fall from my eyes. How could this happen? I am a Hart. Jace Hart, the rightful heir to the Thunderclaw Pack Alpha position. Erika's POV. When Jace spoke those words, it felt like the world came crashing down for a moment. As I struggled to understand what he meant, I spun around to face Jace, my heart pounding in my chest. The anger and confusion that had been simmering inside me finally erupted. How in the world could you keep something this significant from me? I demanded, my voice laced with a mix of hurt and frustration. I could see the guilt flicker across Jace's eyes, but I wasn't about to let him off the hook that easily. Questions tumbled out of my mouth in rapid succession, my words overlapping his feeble attempts to respond. It was as if a dam had burst inside me, and I couldn't stop the flood of emotions and inquiries that poured out. You aren't a Blackwood, and you couldn't even tell me about this? I shrieked, his earlier words playing in my mind again. He was a Hart? As in, Hart? How was all these even possible? It's the truth, Rika. He still went ahead to reply in a nonchalant tone. I glared at him, feeling betrayed by all these. All my life had been a lie from the start, and I was pretty sure Father knew of all these. I grew up with a total stranger, thinking we were siblings born of another mother, but shared the same father. I would never believe that we were not a family. We were not siblings. We were both from different mothers and fathers. That explains why Father insisted I become Alpha, because he wasn't a Blackwood. All right, that's enough of the drama, we heard Serenity say, rubbing her hands together. You both don't see how freezing it is out here, and you still want to converse and leave us to die in such cold? She snorted. I and Jace watched her carefully, already knowing that what would happen next wouldn't be good. My gaze shifted to Alex, who was slumped over the guard's shoulder. I had a hunch that the substance was sprayed on him, and that was why it had such an effect on him. Erika, I will get my revenge on you for killing my brother, and I'll also kill your fake brother, who destroyed my base, my father's legacy. I watched her like she had gone nuts. She called a base filled with hoodlums a legacy? Serenity was definitely not all right. Saren, shut up. She cut me short, and before I could say one more word, Serenity pulled out a gun. One that would most definitely have a silver bullet. I'll send you both straight to meet your dad. Oh, wait. He is not your father, Jace, and he isn't dead either. I gritted my teeth and clenched my fist. I was ready to snap if she kept spewing those words. Her guard lurked nearby as I sat on the freezing ground, while Jace knelt beside me. Back off. She aimed the gun at Jace, her voice demanding. I urged him to step away, and he complied. But then, in a flash, someone bolted toward Serenity, attempting to wrestle the gun from her grasp. We all stayed there, frozen in shock, as the unexpected intruder appeared before us. Serenity's screams pierced the air, mixing with the chaos unfolding in front of us. It was as if time had come to a standstill, and I struggled to comprehend the scene playing out before my eyes. My heart pounded in my chest as I watched Serenity desperately cling to the gun, her grip slipping with each tug. The intruder, relentless and determined, fought against her, refusing to let go. As I squinted through the confusion, my eyes widened in disbelief. It was Noir Hart, the person who had just entered our lives, now standing before us, battling Serenity for control of the weapon and saving our lives. When did he wake up? And he seemed to have healed up completely. My heartbeat palpitated as I watched him in excitement. Soon, Noir's eyes locked with mine, and in that moment, I saw a mixture of pity and determination in his two clear eyes. Confusion washed over me as I tried to comprehend the meaning behind the look. Why would he direct such a pitiful expression towards me before I could find the answers? Everything became clear in an instant. Without warning, Noir pulled his t-shirt away, revealing the explosive he had on. Fear crept to my face, seeing all the explosives he wore. In a daring motion, Noir propelled himself off the cliff, pulling Serenity with him. Serenity screamed bloody murder when Noir jumped off the cliff together with her. "No!" I yelled out as I realized that Noir was just about to kill himself and Serenity as revenge for everything. The bomb he wore exploded, and he wasn't to be seen again. That was how both Serenity and Noir died. I froze in place while I felt Jace rushed over to the guard, who had already thrown Alex to the ground and took to his heels. I slowly turned to Alex's direction, and seeing his limp body, my insides shook, and I found myself crawling towards him shakily. When I reached him, I pulled him to me, staring at his handsome face as I called out to him. "Alex, wake up." The cold was already beginning to get to Cindy and I. My legs felt like jelly, and I was this close to passing out. "Alex," I called out again. "Wake up." I tapped his chin, everywhere to make him wake up, but it was to no avail. "Cindy, what's going on with him?" I asked. "He'll be all right," was all she said, and I doubted I would get words instantly. "Are you sure? Why is he not responding?" "The dosage was too much on him," she said, talking about the spray Serenity used on him earlier. Tears stung my eyes, but I bit them back and turned in the direction Jace left in. We were the only ones here now, and no one was in sight to help. Dizziness suddenly hit me, making me unable to keep my eyes open. I tried multiple times, but failed miserably. And soon, I succumbed to the darkness, laying close to Alex. Erika's POV. My eyes fluttered open as a gust of wind brushed against my face, sending shivers down my spine. I groaned, finally able to open my eyes to see the white stipple ceiling. Without being told, I knew I was in the Pack's hospital. I sat up and glanced around, my gaze falling on the flowers on the table beside my bed. "Flowers?" I asked. "Yes," Cindy answered. "From who?" Just as I waited for an answer from Cindy, the door to the room was pushed open, and in walked Jace with Alex. I raised a brow at them and folded my hands on my chest. "You're awake. Oh, Mother of the Moon, thank you," Alex said, and ran to my side immediately. The frown on my face intensified at those words. "You sound like I slept for ages," I snorted, averting my gaze from his. Jace chuckled at the side. "You did sleep for ages," he confirmed, and I turned towards him in surprise. "What do you mean?" "How long have I been out?" 2 months. "What?" My eyes went wide in shock. I had been unconscious for 2 months? "Are you sure?" "That's such a long time." Jace nodded, taking a seat beside me. I breathed out and turned to the flowers again. "And the flowers?" "Oh," Alex brought them in. I raised a brow at those words, then turned to look at Alex. A smile made its way to his face as he nodded, also scratching the back of his head. "Yes, I brought them in." "For who?" He raised a brow at me. "You, of course." I tucked my lips in and nodded. I turned to Jace again. The memories of what happened 2 months ago came flooding my mind again. "Yes, Jace wasn't a Blackwood." "Could you excuse us for a few minutes?" I asked Alex. There were no traces of smile on my face as I said that. He nodded and walked out of the room, leaving just me and Jace. Now alone in the room, I turned towards Jace and raised a brow. "I might have been asleep for 2 months. It doesn't mean I forgot how you kept the fact you weren't a Blackwood from me." Jace swallowed at my words and flashed me a weak smile. "I apologize, honestly. I was going to tell you, but I needed the right time." "Oh yeah, the right time." "You would have kept it from me even more if Serenity never said it." He shook his head in denial. No, I would have told you. I sighed, unable to drag the conversation out longer. It's fine. So what are the next plans? I asked expectantly, leaning back on the bed as I waited for his next words. Well, me and Kat, we're getting mated and married. We agreed to do that once you wake up, and you're awake. No, I'm not, I said immediately, about to lie down and fake sleep again. Common, Rika. Don't be an enemy to my progress. He snorted, and I laughed. That's good news. I'm so happy for you both. You can host it in 3 days' time or less. I don't want to be the reason that happiness is delayed further. He nodded at me and agreed to do as I said. All right then, but one more thing. I raised a brow. What? It's about Alpha Alex. Oh, okay? He breathed. He really is sorry, and he only wishes that you can forgive him. I already expected those words, and I prepared my answer. I'm aware. I forgive him too, I said, a smile on my face. Really? You'll go? No, I won't go back to him. Everything we had was in the past now. Dad won't let me. At those words, Jace laughed cheekily. Funny enough, Dad agreed. Are you sick? I asked with a small chuckle. How could Jace joke about something like this? I'm not kidding. Dad is awake. I went still. My dad was awake. Jace, I wouldn't want you joking with Dad's condition. You think it's a joke? He is really awake. What? He gave a nod, happiness shining in his eyes as he confirmed my words. I was so close to sprinting out of the room to go home and find him, but Jace didn't let me. Consider your health too. He is fine, and he is at home. Tears brimmed in my eyes at the word home, the very place I grew up in with my father and Jace. I want to see him. My voice broke at that part. You will, he is waiting at home. I'll go get you discharged now. He smiled and reached out to run a hand through my hair. I relaxed into his touch, not minding if he wasn't my brother. This left a bitter taste in my mouth. Jace wasn't my brother. I watched him walk out of the room, and at the same time, Alex walked into the room. Seeing him reminded me of what Jace just said. Dad accepted him? Dad wants me to get back together with him after everything? But what about the contract he offered me? I really didn't want to think about this, so I would question him in regards to all these at home. How are you feeling? He asked, and I masked my confusion with a smile. I'm an alpha. Of course this minor incident can't harm me deeper. At my words, a smile broke out on his face. Jace said he would get you discharged now. Yes, I want to go see my father. Yes, he woke up a week ago. I told him everything that happened and how you got to this state. He was worried too. I glanced at him and let out a small smile. Thank you for explaining things to him. Silence reigned, and it dragged on for long before the door was pushed open and Jace walked in. You're free to go now. You've been discharged, Alpha Erika. Erika's POV. As we left the hospital and headed back to the pack house, my nerves began to kick in again. I couldn't help but wonder how it would be to see my father again after all this time. We were apart for months, or was it a year? My palms turned clammy as I imagined our long-awaited reunion. We soon arrived at the pack house, and the car door was pulled open for me. Jace helped me out, alongside Alex, whom I still found weird for all the kind gestures. We walked into the pack house, the maids and guards bowing in unison on seeing I had returned home. Their alpha was back after being in the infirmary for a while, 2 months. Cindy did a bad job at healing me up quickly. She had to wait for 2 whole months just to heal me up? I ignored everyone and made my way directly to my father's bedroom. He was the only one I wanted to see at this point. Once I neared his room door, I heard the voice of the doctor as he spoke to my father. Taking in a deep breath, I reached out to knock on the door, and they both halted their conversation to know who it was. Come in. Hearing my father's familiar, deep but smooth voice again after such a long time made me want to tear up. But I held it in, stood my ground, and walked into the room. The moment his pair of clear silver eyes met mine, my heartbeat accelerated. "Father," I called out first, honoring him not just as a father but as the former alpha of the prestigious pack. "Erika," he called back. I trembled, hearing my name tumble out of my father's mouth again. When was the last time he called me by my name? That was when I arrived home after my divorce. He would often call me his little alpha, but I preferred my name from his lips. "Father," I drawled, balling my hands to avoid tearing up. The doctor seemed to have understood that we needed some privacy, and he immediately stood up to leave. He bowed at me and then at my father before walking out of the room. Now alone with my father, I couldn't hold it back in and finally let the dam break. "Dad," a smile made its way to his face as he extended his hands, calling me closer. I took up that invitation and ran straight to throw myself into my father's arms after such a long time. It felt so good to be in his arms once more after everything that had happened in the past. After everything I had to face, the emotions and all. It felt so surreal. Without my father by my side, being an alpha wasn't as easy as I thought. It came with a lot of duties, which I most times needed to think my head off before comprehending. No wonder he said Jace would teach me everything I needed to know about all these. But still, Jace didn't teach me much, and I was left to figure things out on my own. After I pulled away from the hug, I stared at my father's face. His lips all were looking extremely pale, and I felt my heart squeeze a bit. The demon orchid wolfsbane was enough to kill a werewolf, but the father survived. That was to show that he wasn't just a fighter, but he loved us dearly. Since my mother passed on, he had been there as both parents, making sure to satisfy us in all ways possible. "Father," I called out, and he smiled, patting my hair soothingly. "Don't cry. Alphas don't cry. If you cry, you'll appear weak before everyone. You have to be strong, and I mean very strong, to rule a pack. It's not every time a female is brought forth to be declared alpha in the entire Fangoria. You're like the first one for now, and you have to live by example," he advised, and I nodded. "If you cry all the time from little things, and he acts foolish in time to be wise, then you aren't fit to be an alpha, dear," he went ahead to say. I didn't know why he brought this part up, but I knew that he was trying to make me understand why it should never cry unnecessarily again. "Why don't you get mated again?" I choked on my saliva at those words from father. Wasn't he the one who offered a contract T to stay away from men? "Yes, plans and people change. I want you to be happy, and I know that you alone without a man by your side would be very difficult for you." I frowned. "How would that be difficult?" "Before you go ahead to protest, your ex-husband was here and we talked about a lot of things. He told me everything that happened and he even went down on his knees to apologize for what he did to you." My eyes widened at those words. "Alex did that? So what are you trying to say?" I asked, not sure I understood his point. "Accept your husband back. He is genuinely sorry, my dear. Even though you were miserable at the time he treated you badly, you still can't deny that the moon goddess made you both for each other. You won't be able to be with another man other than Alex." I smiled thinly, knowing my father was right. I just realized that I wouldn't be able to get together with any other man again except Alex. I stared at my father reluctantly, and he smiled at me. "You'll be fine," he confirmed, and I nodded. "That could be discussed another time. For now, we need to talk about your health. The demon orchid was heavily injected into whatever you took at that time. But my question is, where did you go on that day?" As I asked this question, I watched him expectantly for an answer. But just as he opened his mouth to give me a response, a knock came at the door, and I groaned internally. "Come in." The person at the door came in immediately. "Greetings, Alpha Erika, Alpha Jerome. The elders of the Thunderclaw Pack are here to see you, Alpha Erika." I raised a brow. That fast? I turned to Dad to get permission from him to leave. You may go. I'll tell you everything when you return, he promised, and I had no choice but to believe him. I stood up to my feet, gave him a quick peck on the forehead, and walked out of the room. Erika's POV. Stepping into the meeting room, I met with the elders of the Thunderclaw Pack already seated and waiting for me. The moment they saw me walk in, they all stood up to their feet and bowed in unison. Greetings, Alpha Erika. They echoed, and I sighed. I wanted nothing more than to just go back to Father's room and spend my time with him. But he would never let me stay if I don't attend this meeting. Take a seat, you all, I said lazily, also taking my seat at the head of the table. My gaze swept across their faces, taking in the different looks their faces and noting each expression. I could literally see through a few of them, who tried to mask their disdain with a smile. I decided not to say a word about it and just go ahead to ask them. Why are you all here? The eldest among them stood up to explain, but I cut him shut. Just sit. You don't have to stand. He nodded and sat back down. Alpha Erika, we're here today on behalf of the death of the Thunderclaw Pack Alpha. He began, and I gave a nod, gesturing for him to proceed. We couldn't find his body to give a proper water funeral, but he would always live in our hearts. I just didn't understand the essence of his words, but I chose to listen. Noir was my friend and was also our savior. It was my duty to pay the rights and offer condolence to his pack members. Our Alpha never got married, neither does he have children. So we were thinking if maybe you are willing to take us in and merge with the Ironclaw Pack? I shook my head immediately. That won't be happening because the very man you all thought was the Thunderclaw Pack Alpha happened to be the wrong one. I know the right Alpha, and you all can confirm. Murmurs filled the room as they tried to process my words. I didn't push them further either and just let them think about it. Who is he? I smiled. My bro, Jace. He raised a brow, confused. Who is Jace? And how do you know he is the supposed Alpha? Jace is my brother, and I know he is the rightful heir because he acts like one. I sounded silly, but I saw this from day one. Jace was strong, and he possessed the spirit and strength of an Alpha. Jace? Your brother? May we see him? One of the elders asked, and I nodded. Of course, I'll call him over now. You can speak to him about it. I reached into my mind link to call Jace, but something snapped in me, bringing me to understand something. Jace and I weren't related, but we could mind link each other. How was that even possible? I creased my brow, thinking deep into this, and didn't know the elders were still waiting for me. Alpha, the other elder called out, and I snapped out of the trance I momentarily found myself. Oh, sorry, I said with a smile and focused back on the mind link. Jace, I called out, waiting patiently for his reply, which took a while. He hummed, and I rolled my eyes mentally. Come over to the meeting room. But I'm about to go shopping with Kat, he protested, and I frowned. That can wait, Jace. Tell Kat I'll personally escort her there tomorrow. He wanted to protest again, but I gave him no chance to do that, and he hurriedly obeyed. He will be here shortly, I said with a small nod to the elders, and they returned the gesture. Soon, we heard footsteps approaching the meeting room, and I turned to see Jace walking in with a stoic expression. He took a seat beside me, and I turned to the elders who had their eyes on him in surprise. Once Jace was seated, I began again. This is Jace, my brother. Jace, meet the elders of the Thunderclaw Pack. The introduction mattered at the point, and thankfully, the elders were actually honest. They exchanged pleasantries with Jace formally, and I sighed. Now to inform you why I called for you here today, I said to Jace, turning to look at him. The elders here wants to confirm that you're really their Pack Alpha and not Noir. Jace glanced at me and raised a brow. I shrugged in return, also avoiding his stare. I went quiet, waiting for him to say the next words. He didn't disappoint. "Greetings, elders," he began. "I am indeed the rightful heir to the Thunderclaw Pack," he announced, and I turned to look at him as joy flashed in my eyes. Furthermore, he was becoming even bolder than I was. The elders nodded in unison and said, "Jace, can we confirm if what you said is true?" Jace shrugged. "How do you want to do that?" he asked, and the elders smiled thinly. "We shall take you to the sacred altar of the moon goddess and have to pray there to prove you're the true alpha of the Thunderclaw Pack." I glanced at Jace, wanting to see if he would accept their decision. Thankfully, he did. "All right then, I'll go with you to prove it wherever you want." "Fug," he said, and the elders all nodded as they stood up to leave. "Tomorrow, Jace, please do come to the temple of the moon goddess." The instructed and Jace nodded, telling them he got their point. The elders left afterward, leaving me and Jace in the room. "It's time to take over what rightfully is yours," I whispered and patted his shoulder. He sighed, smiling thinly as he also turned to leave the meeting room. Erika's POV. Finally, the confirmation of Jace's real identity was completed, and they all agreed to make him the alpha of the Thunderclaw Pack. I could finally breathe in great air knowing that Jace and Kat would be rulers soon. I and the girls decided to visit the clothing store today, since the mating ceremony and the coronation ceremony were placed in 2 days. Kat needed the perfect dress for her mating ceremony and her coronation ceremony as the Luna of the Thunderclaw Pack. I also made a mental note to ask one of the pack's elders about the fact that I could still mind-link Jace, even though he wasn't my close relative. Father, thankfully, had recovered a bit and could finally walk around the house with his own 2 legs. Me, Paula, and Kat walked out of the pack house, walked to the awaiting vehicle, and climbed in immediately. The car drove us directly to the famous clothing store in the city, and once we arrived, we highlighted from the car. Paula insisted we stop by the eatery just opposite the mall, and I complied. "We'll make it quick. We still have to visit the Thunderclaw Pack today with Jace." "If you both wouldn't make it quick, I'll ditch you and leave," I warned as Kat also pleaded for food. They nodded in unison, and we made our way into the eatery. We found a booth, and they both ordered what they wanted to eat. "What should we order for you?" Kate asked, and I raised a brow. I'm surprised. Why should I tell her what to order for me when she could as well hand me the menu and leave me to order the meal myself? "Give me the menu," I said, reaching out to take it from her. But she pushed my hand away and turned to the waiter with a small smile. "She'll have whatever we have." I gaped at her, seemingly surprised at my friend's audacity to make the decisions for me. "What's wrong with you?" I asked calmly. She shrugged. "If I give you the menu, I know you would go for your usual steak and juice." "And what's wrong with that?" I asked in confusion. "Everything is wrong with it, Rika. Eat something different for a bit," Paula chimed in, and I knew I was just about to lose the argument. I raised my hands in surrender while they cheered excitedly. The meals arrived, and we ate to our satisfaction, though I doubted that Paula ate to her satisfaction. She ordered takeouts too. Just as we were about to leave, I saw someone from the corners of my eyes. It was Alex's sister. She had her gaze cast down the moment she saw us staring at her. I made to walk past her, but she stopped me before I could do so. "Alpha, Erika, please give me a moment." Her voice broke as she stared at me with teary eyes. "What do you want? Make it fast." She nodded and hurriedly began to apologize for the way she and her mother had treated me in the Moon Forest pack house back then. "Please, forgive us." She began to sob relentlessly, and I felt weird. Suddenly, she tried to get on her knees, and I reached out to stop her. "Don't get on your knees for me." I frowned as I ordered, helping her up again. "I forgive you," I said, and I saw the happiness that flashed in her eyes. "Thank you so much, Erika." Her eyes went round and she hugged me before I knew it. I rubbed her back soothingly, even surprised how I forgave her so fast after everything she did to me. Maybe it's because you forgave her brother and you plan on getting back together with him. Cindy chuckled. I made faces and rolled my eyes. Once she pulled away, she waved us off and walked away. His sister? Paula asked immediately, and I nodded. She's pretty, Kat said, going off point, and we both glared at her. Let's go. We went over to the clothing store finally, and the manager was quick to report to us. Welcome, Alpha Erika. He bowed politely while I flashed him a smile in return. He turned to Kat and Paula, giving them a brief bow before gesturing for us to follow him. I'm glad you all decided to visit the store today, because the best designs arrived, and I wouldn't want you three to miss it. He began ranting, and I rolled my eyes. Just give us a dress for her. I pointed at Kat, who gave the manager a fake smile. Oh, just her? Exactly. I have enough dresses already, I said exhaustedly, and he tapped his jaw. What's the occasion? Mating ceremony, Paula replied from behind, and the manager paused his actions. Wait, you're getting mated? He asked Kat, and she nodded. Alpha, she is your friend and you're attending? He asked me, and I nodded as well. Then you all need new dresses. I groaned, shaking my head in denial. I don't. Just get her a perfect one. Definitely not. The newest design has to be worn by you, Alpha. That's the best way to advertise it. I blinked at the manager and then at Kat, who gave a nod. You have to wear it, Paula added. I had no other way to refuse, so I complied. All right, fine. Get the dresses, including the pregnant woman's dress. Paula rolled her eyes and just fished out her phone, probably to text her man again. The manager ran off to get the dresses, and in no time, we began to try them on. Kat was exhausted, including me. Paula sat there eating off the takeouts she bought for us after trying almost all the dresses. Kat finally found the perfect one, according to the manager. Thankfully, the new one that he said I needed to advertise fitted so well that I needn't try other ones. After packing up our clothes and shoes, we headed to the hair sections. Only Kat was supposed to get her hair done, but I suddenly had this urge to cut my hair short. You really want to cut your hair? Why don't you just straighten it and make it longer? Kat whined, but I rolled my eyes and went to take a sit before the mirror. Just cut the hair to my shoulder length, I instructed the girl on duty, and she complied, immediately getting to work. Paula and Kat watched in horror as I cut my waist-length wavy hair short, then turned it into a bob one. I expected a disaster, but I guess everything looked perfect to me. We all left the store after getting our hair done. Then we drove back to the pack house. When we pulled up before the entrance, we climbed down as the maids rushed forward to take out the bags of dresses we came back with. I left the girls and strolled into the pack house to see Father with Alex, also taking a stroll around the pack house. Since his legs recovered quickly, he needed to take a stroll around sometimes to ease the tensed muscles. Father, I called out to him, and he turned to look at me. Alex, too, turned to look at me, but I ignored him. You're back, Father said with a small smile, and I nodded. I turned to Alex, and he flashed me a smile, which I returned. I see you're taking a stroll, I said, and Father smiled. Yes, I'm taking a stroll. He laughed. Alex has been waiting for you. Go over and talk to him, while I continue strolling around. I glared at my dad, and he winked at me. I gave a nod and turned towards Alex again, seeing the bright smile on his face as he led me out of there to the courtyard. Once we arrived, I took a seat, crossing one of my legs over the other. Alex also sat down and breathed out, his gaze still holding mine. What do you want? I went straight to the point, not beating around the bush. I wanted to just ask if you would be free after the ceremony? He asked, and I raised a brow. Why? He stuttered. Can we maybe hang out? No, not hang out. I mean, maybe step out for a meal? He trailed off, trying to find the right words to say, while a small smile appeared on my face, seeing him in such a condition. Deciding to help him, I answered yes. Alex, I'll go on a date with you. P. Erika's POV. I, Jace Hart, Alpha of the Thunderclaw Pack, hereby accept you, Katarina Greywood, as my mate. Jace's voice echoed in the entire hall as he said the vows with Kat. After his coronation, the mating ceremony took place. Me, Father, Paula, Gage, and Alex sat at the sides while we all applauded them in unison. Today, before the goddess of the moon, I proclaim you both as fated mates. The elder in charge said out loud, and cheers filled the entire venue. At long last, Kat and Jace were mated, and it was time to take over their pack as Alpha and Luna of the pack. Everyone stood up to their feet to congratulate them on their union and their positions in Fangoria. I and Paula went forward to Kat's side and pulled her in for a group hug, though Paula's belly wasn't that big yet. The bump was still very visible. Congratulations, girl. You're finally mated. Paula cheered excitedly as Kat beamed at us. It's the best feeling ever, she replied, chuckling with her hands over her lips. It sure is. I nodded, confirming her words. Getting mated was a very wonderful feeling, but to someone who reciprocated the love you had for them. I hugged Kat again, letting her know that I was genuinely happy for her. I'll address you by your title from today. Luna Katarina, I said teasingly, and a grin appeared on her face. Sounds kind of off, but all right. Luna Kat would sound better. We rolled our eyes at her and nodded after all. I'll greet Jace now, I said, and excused myself from them. I walked over to Jace, who was standing with Father as they all congratulated him together. Alpha Jace, I said from behind him, and they all turned to look at me. A smile appeared on Jace's face as he pulled me in for a bear hug. You witch. He chuckled as he ruffled my hair. I hid his hand away, glaring at him as everyone laughed at me from behind me. I shot them death glares, silencing them in an instant. Rika, don't be that way, Jace soothed, rubbing my arm, and I pouted. You, he laughed. You look so weird. Dad came forward to stand before us, and I reached out to hug him. A smile made its way to my face as I pulled away from the hug. Now Jace is an alpha, he said, and I smiled, turning to look at Jace. Yes, he deserves it. But you guys still have a lot of explaining to do about how he isn't a Blackwood. We already told you. Jace frowned. I didn't get it the first time. I rolled my eyes, folding my hands to my chest. The dress I had on was the same one the manager of that store had asked me to advertise. So far, I have gotten so many compliments and people who seemed interested in the dress. A lot of people had already taken pictures of me tonight. You look amazing tonight. I suddenly heard the familiar deep voice that gave me tingles recently. I turned to see Alex standing tall with a small smile on his face as he looked me up and down, taking in the sight of my dress. He didn't look bad either. His black suit made me stand out in the crowd, as other males present dressed in either brown or blue suit. He looked so alluring and handsome with his hair styled to the back, gelled away from his face. You too, I retorted, hiding my smile by casting my gaze lower. Jace nudged me and I glared at him. Don't fucking touch me, I hissed, stepping aside from him. Jace chuckled and reached out a hand to receive Alex's hand for a handshake. Welcome once again, Alpha Alexander, he said, and Alex nodded in gratitude. I'll leave you both to discuss while I greet the guests, he said, and turned to walk out, leaving me all alone with Alex. Now left alone with him, he cleared his throat awkwardly. Well, the atmosphere was awkward. Want to have a drink? I asked before he could even say a word, and I saw the confusion flash in his eyes. Sure. He accepted and we walked towards the bar counter. Don't worry about what people say. We're both alphas and we do whatever we want to do, I assured him as he helped me take a seat on the stool. He smirked. I don't care about what people say, he replied with a small smile again. Once we were seated, he called for the bartender, and he walked up to us, his gaze lowered in respect. "Greetings, Alphas," he said, and Alex turned to me. "What do you want?" I rested a hand on the counter and hummed, trying to come up with what exactly I would have since I wasn't a drinker. "Anything strong," I blurted out and saw Alex raise a brow. "Let's just unwind." I shrugged, a smile on my face. Alex shook his head in amusement and turned to the bartender. "You heard the pretty lady. Give us something strong." The bartender nodded and walked off to get what we wanted. The bartender returned with the drinks and handed them over to us. Now in our hands, we downed the drinks. This was the perfect drink for werewolves. I winced at the hotness while Alex still kept on a straight face. I squinted at him and tried to imitate him. I had no time. I felt tipsy. I felt lightheaded and I wanted to sleep. But in all, I felt hot, wanting to pull my clothes off. It felt so hot in the room, and I wanted to just take it off. "Cindy, what's going on?" I managed to ask, and Cindy howled. "We're in heat." Alex's POV. Her face adorned with smiles and a rosy blush. It was clear that Erika was already drunk. Normally composed and elusive, she had now let her guard down and placed her trust in me. As I observed her unsteady movements as she stepped down from the stool, I battled against the dizziness that also affected me. Determined to assist her, I joined her in descending from the stool. Before we knew it, we found ourselves walking out of the hall, unaware of the passing time. "Rika," someone called from behind us, and we both paused in our tracks, turning to see who it was. It was Kat and Paula, the both of them gaping at us. "What happened to you both?" Kat yelled as she came forward to stand before us. I expected them to lash out at me, blaming me for putting Erika in this state. But they smiled and turned to look at themselves, then back at me. "You both had a drink?" I and Erika hummed. "Oh wow. Alpha Alex, please take her back to your pack house and help her relax," Kat suggested with a grin. I raised a brow, still not understanding what she meant by that. "What?" "Hot, hot," Erika yelled from my side and fanned herself with her both hands. Kat and Paula paused in shock, as if they understood what was going on. "Oh my godness. Rika is in heat," Paula yelled out. Her voice sounded a bit excited for some reason. And because my brains were a bit messy at the moment, I just blinked in return. "Hurry. Alpha Alex, take her home or you both can even go ahead in the car," Kat chimed in. Paula hit her arm and glared at her. She then turned to me. "Alpha Alex, you're sensible enough not to do anything in the car with Erika. That's so uncomfortable." I wasn't even understanding what they meant by those words, but I nodded. "All right, we'll get going now," I said instead, and they nodded quickly. Yes, you both can go." They even pushed us to the awaiting car outside, and we climbed in immediately. "Where to, Alpha Alex?" the driver asked. "Moon Forest Pack House," I blurted out and rested my head. The cat drove off from the venue and straight to our pack. All through the ride there, Erika kept trying to reach for my shirt, wanting to pull it off my body. "Rika, stop," I said, trying to take her hands off me. She whined and tried to do it again. The time she pulled her body up and directly rested her lips on mine, her body having a sudden weird hotness. I tried to push her away again, but her grip was strong. The car thankfully pulled up before the mansion, and I kicked the door open, managing to bring her out of the car safely and breaking the kiss. I walked hurriedly to my bedroom, the same one I had shared with her some months ago. Again, I kicked open the door and walked in, also closing it behind me. Now securely in the room, I placed her down on the bed. She reached out to me again, trying to pull me down for a kiss, but I rejected it. "Erika, you need to relax," I breathed out, finding this situation awkward. I couldn't just take advantage of her during her sleep. Heat, I'm in my heart period, she said softly, as if she was currently in her right mind. I blinked at that information. She was in her heart period? That meant if I do anything with her, there's a high chance of her getting pregnant with my child. I shook my head, perishing the idea instantly. Having a child with Erika against her will was the last thing I would ever want. I placed her down on the bed and tried to run off, but she held me back immediately. Alex, please help me. Please don't go, she whispered into my ears, and I panicked. All traces of dizziness disappeared in an instant. What was I supposed to do now? Erika, you need to sleep, I said, peeling her hands off me and trying to make her settle on the bed. The moment I sat with her on the bed, she threw herself into my arms and pressed her lips to mine. I froze in shock immediately. Her lips felt so soft on mine, and I realized she wasn't also experienced when it came to things like this. Without warning, I took over the kiss. My hands subconsciously roamed her entire body, trying to feel the usual softness of her body. One that reminded me that even though she was a tough alpha, she was still but a woman. Just when I felt I was about to trail off, I realized that she was in a drunken state, even though it was her heat period. Erika, wait, I said again, pushing her off me, and she finally complied, thankfully. I used that medium to pin her down on the bed, increase the aircon, and cover her up with a blanket. She kept turning and tossing in her sleep, looking extremely uncomfortable. But I couldn't help her. I just couldn't bring myself to do anything with her. Yes, she was my wife and we did this before, but we are divorced now, and I'm still in the difficult process of trying to woo her back. The last thing I needed was any mistakes that could jeopardize my efforts so far. Without a word, I rushed over to the bathroom for a quick shower and then returned to the room. I hesitated, climbing into the bed, and instead I went directly to the couch to lie down. My gaze was fixed on her peaceful face as she slept so soundly, nothing like the strict alpha female she always appeared to be. She is beautiful, Elijah suddenly said, and I couldn't deny it, she is. I guess the date night is officially over, he added, his tone pitiful. I hummed. Our date was already accomplished. He said nothing more to me, and as I continued watching my ex-wife on our bed, no matter what it takes, I will do anything to keep Erika happy. Erika's POV. My eyes fluttered open, and to my biggest surprise, I found myself in an unfamiliar room. Jerking up, I sat upright, my heart racing. Confusion washed over me as I glanced around, taking in the surroundings. But then, something clicked. The room began to feel oddly familiar, as if I had been here before. I held my head as my vision blurred, not letting me comprehend where I was. Where am I? I whispered, directing the question at Cindy. But to my dismay again, Cindy remained quiet, refusing to give a reply. Wait, now I think of it, this room was my room. At this thought, I blinked furiously and rubbed my aching head even more. This is Alex's room? You got it right, Cindy replied with a laugh, and I clenched my fist. How dare you keep mute the first time? It was because you forgot this room so easily, the same room you stayed in for the past 3 years, she reasoned, and I rolled my eyes. You should have told me as well, and please tell me I did nothing with Alex. Horror filled me, just remembering how I initiated the kiss earlier. He must be so mad at me for doing that. How could I have done something as stupid and disgusting as this? I hurriedly checked my outfit and saw that I still had my dress on from the party. A sigh of relief left my lips as I glanced around the room one more time. Nothing had changed at all ever since I left. I expected that serenity would have turned this bedroom into an evil lair, but surprisingly, Alex didn't let that happen. Just as I continued thinking about it and checking the room out again, the door was pushed open, and in walked Alex, carrying a tray of different dishes. I raised a brow in surprise, seeing him bring food into the room. Who was the meal for? "You're awake," he said with his usual charming smile, one I had always longed for in the past. "Forget about the past now and focus on the future." Cindy pleaded. "Yes, I'm awake," I replied with a small smile as well. Then my gaze shifted to the meal he was holding. He noticed my stare and then walked forward to place the food before me. "I made you your favorite meal." I didn't see that coming, and I gasped. He stared at me in confusion. "Are you all right?" Was I all right? Definitely not. "Yes, I'm fine. I just wasn't expecting you to cook. I mean, you can cook." I was surprised and began to stutter in shock. He chuckled and shrugged. "Well, I can't cook, but Paula taught me how to make this pack." "Say what now?" "Paula taught him how to cook my favorite meal?" "Oh, wow," I replied, seemingly awkwardly, as he placed the meal down on the bedside table. Afterwards, he sat by my side and grinned. "All right, have a taste and tell me what you think." I was a bit reluctant, but I gave in and had a taste of the meal. Honestly, it was the best I had ever tasted. I never knew Alex was a fast learner, or maybe he was lying about not knowing how to cook. Alex treating me so nicely felt so weird, but I said nothing to him and just ate the meal he brought for me. After I was done eating and felt very satisfied, I wiped my lips with a napkin and smiled at him in gratitude. "You did so well, thank you so much." He waved a hand, stopping me. "There's no need to say that. I'm sorry I brought you here last night instead of taking you to your place." I shook my head a bit. "It's all right. Thank you for having a drink with me," I returned. Silence followed after my words, and I didn't know if I should just stand up and leave or tell him I wanted to leave. His gaze met mine again, and my gaze trailed off from his eyes to his lips, the very ones I kissed last night. A blush crept up to my already heated cheek, and I averted my gaze. About last night I trailed off, suddenly not knowing what to say. "I'm sorry," I blurred out again, and he smiled. "Don't apologize. I liked the kiss." He gave a shocking response, and I raised a questioning brow at him. "Seriously?" He shrugged. "Yes, I loved it." I laughed at those words from him, relief filling me in an instant. "And I love you." I froze the moment he added that last part I hadn't seen coming. I turned to look at him, and I saw the genuine look in his eyes. "What?" I asked, faking ignorance, and she sighed. "I love you, Erika. I don't know how this might sound, but I'm sorry for everything that I did to you in the past. I want you to come back to me and be my Luna again." His gaze was pleading as he stared at me with hooded eyes. I didn't know how to feel seeing his eyes and hearing his words. Was he truly sorry? "He is," Cindy chimed in. My wolf already confirmed that he wasn't up to anything bad, so I had to believe her. If Alex really had good intentions and really wanted to settle again, then I would consider him again. Everything that happened and all the framing were in the past. This was the present, and our future together seemed to have been made by the goddess. "Please," he pleaded again. I bit my lower lip, then looked down and up at him again. "All right then, I forgive you, and I'm willing to marry you again," I said, biting my lower lip and lowering my gaze again. This was it. There was no going back. I would be with Alex again and give him a second chance. Erika's POV. I left the Moon Forest Pack, back to the Ironclaw Pack to inform my father about the proposal and my response. When I arrived, I walked straight into the living room, and surprisingly, I found the girls having a drink as they spoke to father. I squinted my eyes at them, knowing they were the reason I went home with Alex yesterday. "Oh, look who is here." Paula cheered excitedly as they all stood up to welcome me. Except father, of course. "Why are you here?" The question was directed at Kat, and she rolled her eyes. "Can't I come to see my best friend?" she asked haughtily, flipping her hair to the back. I rolled my eyes at her, knowing she was lying. She was supposed to be having a honeymoon at least. I opened my mouth to beat her to it, but she beat me to it instead. And look who didn't sleep at home. They both laughed while I looked down in embarrassment. For goodness sake, my father was present. I glared at them while they made faces at me instead. Erika, come give me a hug. Father called me, and I rushed over to give him a hug, pushing past the girls. Hello, Father. I pulled away to look at him with a smile, and he smiled back. How is Alex? I scrunched my face at his words. Of all the people he asked for, why Alex? He should be fine, I said, and sat beside him. He turned his head to me. He should be fine? You don't know how he is? I really don't know, and can you guys stop? I really don't need this right now. I waved a hand, hoping they would at least stop. But knowing my friends, they could be a pain in the ass. You're blushing and you expect us to stop? Impossible, sweetie. Tell us what's making you glow, Paula said with a grin. I bit my inner cheek, trying so hard to stop myself from lashing out at them. How could they be so annoying and nosy at the same time? Dad, Kat, and Alex proposed again. I finally announced the news they had all been waiting for. The girls cheered excitedly, clapping their hands in joy. And what was your response? Kat asked expectantly, her brow raised. I said yes, I replied, and their joy skyrocketed again. You both keep the squealing down, I yelled out in frustration. Definitely not. We need to begin the wedding planning, Kat yelled out, and before I could respond, she pulled me up from my sitting position and pulled me towards the staircase. We'll talk to you later, Uncle. They waved my father goodbye and pulled me towards my bedroom, as usual. I was this close to snapping Kat's head off her body as they pushed my room door open and pushed me in as well. This is one of the best news I've heard today, Paula said, faking tears already and introducing her drama queen side. You guys stop. No, they both yelled back and made me sit on the bed. Before we go about your dresses and shoes, let's talk about last night. Tell us how it was. Kat began, taking a seat beside me and Paula doing the same. Yes, we need all the details. You must have missed this a lot, right? I stared at my friends in disbelief. How do they think? For your information, nothing happened, I said to disappoint them. But Kat laughed hysterically. You expect us to believe that? She asked, as if had just made a joke. Of course. I was getting pissed already at this point. But what was the fun there if my friends couldn't even cheer me up? You both shut up and let me be. I pushed their hands away from me, but Paula was stubborn. Just tell us. We won't judge, please. How am I supposed to tell you both something that never existed? I asked them, raising a questioning brow at them. Wait, you both really did nothing after all that drink and you being in heat? Kat asked in shock. I nodded. Exactly. He refused to do anything with me. Maybe because I wasn't in my right mind. That's so sweet of Alpha, Alex, Paula said dreamily, then faced Kat. All right then, since she has nothing to tell us, why don't you tell us about last night with Jace? Paula bugged and Kat bit her lower lip. Oh my, you really want to know? But I won't go into details. Please don't, I said, almost feeling disgusted when she hadn't even started. It was the best night of my entire life. The best. And I wouldn't want to wake up if it were all a dream. She exaggerated, and we looked on. She went on and on about how good Jace treated her, how good he was, and everything related. I felt like puking my guts out hearing all these about Jace. That's enough, I yelled out, unable to hold it anymore. One more comment on this, and I would gag again. Kat and Paula laughed out as they saw my scrunched-up face. Why all are so disgusting to talk about men that way? Why do you even go into such details? Kat stuck out her tongue and made faces again. Honestly, we're happy that you accepted Alex again. Even if he was such a douchebag, We still saw the love he had for you, and knew that no one would be able to shower such love on you," Paula said carefully, reaching out to touch my hair. I also hoped that I made the right decision by accepting him back, because if what happened before repeats itself, I wouldn't hesitate to kill Alex. Hopefully, it'll work out fine. Erika's POV. The next morning arrived faster than expected. The girls had left the previous night after we discussed my mating ceremony and everything related. I got dressed, stepped out of my room, and straight to the courtyard where Father awaited me. He had sent for the moment I had woken up earlier, and I had to hurriedly honor his call. I walked straight to the courtyard and found him seated there, going through a few papers I had neglected for quite some time. "Greetings, Father," I said the moment he looked up at me and our eyes met. "My little Alpha, take a seat." He smiled broadly at me and I nodded, taking a seat beside him immediately. "I would assume you had a good night rest, right?" he asked, and I nodded. "I did. Thank you, Father." "All right then. Firstly, I'll apologize for waking you up so early this morning." I shook my head. "No, Father, I already woke up before your call came in." He shrugged. "All right then. Now you accepted Alexander's proposal again, right?" I nodded. "So, have you thought about what would happen to this pack if you do?" He raised a questioning brow at me, and that was when it hit me. I really hadn't thought about this pack when I accepted Alex's proposal again. If I got married to him, I had to go over to his pack to live with him. That would leave the Ironclaw Pack without an alpha and prone to attacks by rogues. "Actually, no, I haven't thought about that," he sighed, nodding in understanding. "What do I do now?" This was the disadvantage of being an alpha and getting together with another alpha. "Do you trust Alexander a lot?" he suddenly asked, and I raised a brow this time at him. I accepted his proposal, so of course I trust him a lot. "Good then, you don't have to worry about this pack anymore. Just ask him to come over. I have a few things I want to discuss with him." "Oh, all right then. I'll call him now," I said and walked out of the room. "Cindy, what do you think?" I questioned as I fished out my phone to call Alex. "Well, I don't know much about all these, but I think your father wants to hand the position over to Alexander," she guessed, and I paused in my tracks. "You think he would do that?" "But Alex can't leave his pack members too," I argued. "Just call him to come over, and then you all can have this conversation together," Cindy suggested, and I complied. I dialed Alex's number, and it eventually went through. "Erika." His deep voice sounded from the other end, and I felt my toes curl in excitement. "Alex, my father asked to see you. Can you come around today?" I asked carefully, not wanting to sound demanding. "I'm currently on my way to the Ironclaw Pack house." His reply was unexpected, and it left me surprised. "Oh, wow, all right then." I let out and ended the call immediately. I walked out of the house, moving to stand at the entrance and wait for his arrival. Soon, his car pulled into the premises and stopped just before me. The guard took the keys from him to drive the car to the parking lot, while Alex walked towards me. I smiled thinly, just about to welcome him, when he snaked his hand around my waist, unexpectedly, and lowered his head to press his lips on mine. I went crimson in an instant, also freezing in spot. That little gesture made my heart flutter slightly in joy. Maybe I did make the right decision by accepting him again. He pulled away and grinned at me. "Hello again." He chuckled while I tucked my lips in. "You shouldn't do that in the open. What if someone sees us?" I hit his arm playfully and he raised both his hands in surrender. "I apologize." "Come with me," I called and turned around to walk back into the house and straight to the courtyard. Father saw us walk in, and a smile made its way to his face. He arrived faster than expected, Father said with a small smile, and I nodded. "He was already on his way here before you asked for him." Father smiled. "Why was he coming again? He can't bear to part ways with you." The sinister smile never left his face. "No, Don't get him wrong. He was, yes, Alpha Jerome. I couldn't bear to part ways with her, Alex said with a grin, and I turned to glare at him. Father laughed at that, while gesturing to the seat before him. Take a seat, Alex. Alex nodded and sat down together with me. Once we were seated, Father began. Alpha Alexander, I called you here to ask you one question. Since you're getting together with the Alpha of the Ironclaw Pack, and you are the Alpha of the Moonforest Pack, what do you think about merging together our packs? Oh, so that was the idea. To merge the packs together. That was brilliant of Father. That way, we would both rule our packs and still stay together. I turned to Alex to see the look of surprise in his eyes. Really, sir? You want to merge our packs? He asked instead, and Father shrugged. If it's okay with you, then yes. Alex bit his lower lips and nodded. Yes, Alpha, it is all right with me. I breathed out a sigh of relief when I heard him say that. Finally, we would kill two birds with one stone. Get together and get our packs together as well. Alex would become the Alpha of the Ironclaw Pack, while still mated to me. Erika's POV. After the decisions had been made, the mating ceremony was finally set to happen in 2 days' time. The girls and I decided to visit the clothing store from before to shop for an outfit for the ceremony. We walked into the store, and as usual, the manager was all over us. He took us around the store, showing us a different array of dresses and shoes. We ended up picking out so many dresses and shoes at the end. We left the store and again visited the eatery because of Paula. After having the entire dishes in the shop, we left for the pack house again. Paula kept whining about her stomach being too big for her to carry. She said her dresses weren't fitting anymore, and she couldn't go out all the time because of it. Let's visit the Thunderclaw Pack. Paula also suggested, and I complied. The driver drove us directly to the Thunderclaw Pack, which was an hour drive away from the Ironclaw Pack. We arrived there in no time, and we all got down from the car. The premises was one of a kind, similar to that of the Moonforest Pack. We walked into the living room to see Jace looking so exhausted as he sat on the couch. Jace. I was first to call out to him, and he opened his eyes to look at us, flashing us a grin. You decided to visit my pack today. He chuckled. I rolled my eyes and sat beside him, making myself comfortable. Yes, I visited today, just because I want to invite you to my mating ceremony in 2 days. At those words, Jace opened his eyes again to look at me. You're finally getting mated. He laughed, and I rolled my eyes. Yeah, Father abolished the contract, I said with a smile. Good for you. I stared at him and frowned. You look exhausted, I pointed out, and he sighed. I am super exhausted, and I want to give up this alpha role already. At those words, I bursted out laughing. I laughed so hard that my stomach began to hurt. He hadn't even begun, and he was already tired? You're so impossible. I laughed, wiping the lone tear that fell from my eye. You just took up the duty and you're already tired? I chuckled, and he rolled his eyes. I'm exhausted, for real. I sighed, leaning into the seat to rest for a while. So, it's Alexander? He asked after a while. The girls had gone upstairs to Kat's bedroom while staying by to converse with my fellow alpha. Of course, who else? I smiled. For a moment there, I thought you were going to end up with Noir instead, he said, turning to look at me. What? I laughed, shaking my head in denial. Definitely not Noir. We don't click that much. He nodded in understanding. I see you also cut your hair. I touched the hair, nodding in approval. Yes, I needed something different. He sighed. I'll be at the mating ceremony in 2 days, he assured, and stood up to his feet. For now, I need to attend a meeting with the elders. It just never ends. I chuckled and gave him a reassuring pat on his back. You'll be fine. He nodded, hopefully. I stood up as well, about to leave as I saw Paula climbing down the stairs. Ready to leave? I asked her, and she nodded. Yes, I'm exhausted, she confirmed, and I walked up to her to support her as we both left the pack house and straight to the car. Once we got in, the car drove off from the Thunderclaw Pack. I relaxed into the seat after instructing the driver to drive us back to the Moonforest Pack to drop Paula off. I'm so tired, Paula complained again for the untempted time. I ignored her again, trying to pretend like I didn't hear her. When she saw I said nothing in return, she huffed and just folded her arms over her chest. We arrived at the Moonforest Pack, and she climbed down in anger. Our friendship is over, she yelled, and I laughed. Paula, don't be unreasonable. I was lost in thoughts, I said with an amused smile, as I also climbed off the car after her. She turned to glare at me and rolled her eyes. You keep ignoring me, she whined. All right, I'm sorry, I pleaded, and she pouted. Fine then, I forgive you. I rolled my eyes at the drama queen and turned to climb back into the car. The car left the pack and went back to the Ironclaw Pack. Erika, I need to go for a run. First, you neglected the heat period, and now I hope you don't neglect this request. All right, Cindy was never this way, but I would have had to comply and let her go for a run. When we get to the pack house, you can go for a run, I said. But she didn't give a response. Arrogant alpha wolf. Once the car arrived at the pack house, we walked to the forest at the back of the mansion, and I shifted, letting her take over after a long while of being imprisoned. Oh, finally, she cheered, howling non-stop as she ran around. It was good to see her this happy after a long time of trying to take down a certain organization and a certain masterminder. Cindy leapt from one place to another happily, and it wasn't a joke to say that I felt very happy about it. Things will definitely go well from today henceforth. Erika's POV. Finally, the awaited day arrived, and the maids helped me get dressed. Kat and Paula also helped in getting me dressed for the ceremony. I couldn't believe that I would get mated again, after preparing myself to stay alone forever. The goddess sure has a way of doing weird things. Oh my, that earring looks terrible, Kat yelled at the maid, who brought forth a weird-looking earring. The maid shuddered and bowed apologetically. Don't yell at her, Kat, I said playfully, and Kat rolled her eyes. Today is a special day, but I feel she just wants to rile me up, she grumbled while the maid apologized again. I accepted the earrings from her and asked her to leave. You have to get your anger together, I said, and put the earrings aside. She is incompetent, Kat said, and we all turned to look at her. Her words made no sense, but we laughed it off together. The preparations continued, and I finally got dressed in my dress. I stood before the floor-length mirror as I took in the sight of my reflection. The dress looked so good and beautiful on me, plus my short hair that was styled to the side. You look good, Kat said dramatically, and I laughed. The dress is beautiful, I said with a smile. All right, time to leave, Paula said as she stepped before us. We stared at her figure, which seemed to add up each passing day. What are you both staring at? She yelled at us, and I averted my gaze. Nothing you should worry about. Kat giggled as they pulled me out of the room and straight downstairs where everyone waited for us. The car was ready to leave for the altar of the moon goddess and father, and the others had already left. We got in and the car left the pack house, straight to the temple. When we arrived, the guards pulled open the door for us, and we walked out. We went up the stairs into the temple. The goddess temple in the Ironclaw Pack was the biggest in the entire Fangoria. There were lots of people gathered to witness their alpha get mated and the merging together of packs. I saw Alex at the altar, and Dad and Jace seated at the right side. Kat and Paula went to sit with them while I walked up to the altar to stand beside Alex. He beamed at me, and I did the same as we faced the elder who was supposed to bless our union again. This day reminded me of 3 years ago when we both first got mated at the Moonforest Pack temple. The elder cleared his throat and began. Dear friends, today we gather under the watchful gaze of the moon goddess to witness a momentous occasion. We are here to celebrate the union of two extraordinary souls, Alpha Erika Blackwood and Alpha Alexander Robertson, as they embark on their journey of love and commitment once again. As we stand in awe of their unwavering bond, let us remember the strength and resilience that brought them together. Their love has withstood the test of time, and today we commemorate the deep connection they share. Alpha Erika and Alpha Alexander, your love story is an inspiration to us all. Through the trials and tribulations you have faced, your love has only grown stronger. Today, we honor the depth of your devotion and the unbreakable unity you have forged. As you stand before the altar of the moon goddess, ready to take your vows once again, remember the promises you made to each other. Let these vows be a testament to the love that binds you, a promise to cherish and support one another through every joy and challenge that life may bring. May the moon goddess bless this union, filling your lives with love, happiness, and prosperity. Now, let us proceed with the sacred ceremony. I gulped my saliva at his words. It was now or never. I faced Alex, who also did the same. Alpha Alex will begin, the elder said, and Alex nodded. Clearing his throat, he began. I, Alexander Robertson of the Moon Forest Pack, stand before you today, Erika Blackwood, to declare my unwavering commitment and love for you. From the depths of my soul, I take you to be my mate, bound by the sacred ties of the moon goddess. In your eyes, I found a reflection of my true self, a kindred spirit who understands and accepts me completely. Together, we have withered storms and basked in the warmth of shared laughter and joy. I promise to be your rock, your confidant, and your partner in all endeavors. As long as the moon graces the night sky, I will be your protector, guiding you through life's twists and turns. I will hold your hand and walk beside you, facing each challenge with unwavering strength and unwavering love. Erika Blackwood, you are the other half of my soul, the missing piece that completes me. Today, I stand here in the presence of our loved ones and the moon goddess. Go declare my eternal love for you. He went on, and I felt tears gathered in my eyes as I heard every word her said. Was Alex usually this sweet? He wasn't. Or maybe he was, but I never saw that side of him. All the words he said made me feel like tearing up in an instant. All these were just too much to handle. So, Erika Blackwood, I take you as my mate, sealing our bond under the watchful eyes of the moon goddess. With this oath, I pledge my love, my loyalty, and my unwavering devotion to you. He finally finished, and everyone applauded him. I saw Kat and Paula from the corners of my eyes, tearing up at the confession. Or was it the path Alex had just taken? Now, Alpha Erika, it's your turn to take the oath. I bit my lips, suddenly not knowing what to say. Cindy, help. That was all I said inside, and Cindy chuckled. Sure. I hurriedly let her take over, and knowing how witty she was, she began. I, Erika Blackwood, the enchantress of the Ironclaw Pack, stand before you, Alexander Robertson, ready to make you weak in the knees. Everyone bursted out laughing at those words, and I face-palmed myself inwardly. Be serious, Cindy, I warned, and she chuckled. She continued, ignoring me. From the moment our eyes locked, I knew you were trouble, but the good kind of trouble. So here I am, taking you as my mate, because who could resist your irresistible charm and that dashing smile? Everyone, including Alex, smiled at those words. I shouldn't have let Cindy take over. Now I regretted it. Together, we'll create a live story that will make others green with envy. Our passion will ignite like fireworks on a starry night, and our chemistry will be hotter than the sun itself. So, Alexander Robertson, I take you as my mate, and promise you that life will be boring from now henceforth." She finished, and again, the audience clapped in unison. "And so, Alpha Alexander, you have a Luna and your mate? Erika Blackwood?" The elder had the final declaration, and that was it. The ceremony was completed. Erika's POV. Everyone came forward to congratulate us on finally getting mated again. The merging of the pack was ongoing amongst the elders, while I greeted everyone who came forward together with Alex. I saw the girl coming to also offer us their congratulations. Paula was beaming, but frowning as well. I noticed her discomfort, which she hid pretty well. "Congratulations, Alpha Alex, Luna Erika," Kat said wittily, and we all laughed. "Congrats, Alpha Alex and Luna Erika," Paula said, as I saw the pain that flashed in her eyes. "Paula, are you all right?" I couldn't help but ask. She shook her head. "What's wrong, P?" Kat asked, going over to hold her. I feel she suddenly let out an ear-piercing scream as she blew air from her mouth. "The baby is coming." "What?" we all yelled in unison. Everyone panicked as we watched her blow more air from her mouth. She was trying not to panic like us, and soon. Gage rushed over. "What's wrong?" "It's P. She's in labor." Gage cursed, and without waiting, he lifted her off the ground and sprinted out of the room, straight to the entrance where a car was soon brought forth. Once she was securely placed in the car sped off from the pack house and straight to the infirmary. I and Kat rushed over to the other car with Alex, but before we could get in, an elder called for our attention. "Alpha Alexander has to stay behind for the success of the merging. The rest of you can go." Alex turned to look at me, and disappointment flashed in his eyes. I gave him a little nod and a small smile of encouragement. "Just go. You can come to the hospital the moment the merging is completed and you're made Alpha," I said to him, and he sighed. "All right then, take care of yourself," he said, and walked forward to pull me in for a hug. After the hug, I and Kat climbed into the car, and the driver drove off from the venue, straight to the hospital with the others. Soon, we arrived, and we both rushed in at once. We found Gage pacing back and forth, looking extremely nervous while I chuckled. I and Kat sat by the corner as we watched the door to the labor room once in a while. "This is it," Kat said, a sigh escaping her lips as she stared at me. "Yes, it's time," I replied, getting what she was implying. P is a fighter, and she would have a smooth delivery. I just can't wait to have a little pup too, Kat said with a look of exasperation in her eyes. "We all will. Let's celebrate Paula's first, and we talk about ours later." I chuckle softly. The process lasted for a long while, but in no time, the door to the labor room was pulled open and the doctor walked out. He smiled at us and turned to Gage. "You're the patient's mate?" he asked, and Gage nodded. "All right, great. Congratulations. Your mate has just given birth to a baby boy," he said, and Gage broke out into a wide smile. I and Kat cheered at the sides. This is what we're talking about. P gave birth to a baby boy. Kat whistled as I made a little happy dance. "We'll be aunties," I added, and she nodded before giving me a big hug. "The mate can see her first, then her friends can go on afterward," the doctor said with a smile before walking out. "Gage, go on first. We'll wait for our turn," I said, and he nodded. He walked into the room after taking deep breaths. Jace walked up to us and sighed. "Men get so worked up when their wives go into labor," he muttered and took a seat beside us. Kat nudged him slightly, and when their eyes met, she wiggled her brow. "We need a pup too. You have to work harder." She chuckled. I face-palmed myself at her shamelessness, wishing not to hear a thing they would be discussing. "Don't worry. I'll do my best, and you'll be loaded in no time." Jace flirted back. "Disgusting." "All right, that's enough. You both get the hell out of here." I yelled at them, but lowered my voice when a nurse gestured with her hands to quiet down. "You're just jealous. Don't worry, Alex will get you loaded too." Kat said shamelessly and snorted. I clenched my fist as my face heated up. How could she say things so shamelessly without a care in the world? Soon, the door to the ward was pulled open, and Gage walked out with his eyes moist. Was he crying? You both can go in now. I'll go get her discharged, he said, his voice a bit shaky. We nodded, standing up to our feet as we walked towards the room door. I stopped just a few steps away and turned to look at Gage and Jace, who were shaking hands. Gage, congratulations once again, I said, and he bowed. Thank you, Alpha Erika. With that, I and Kat walked into the ward to see Paula already in a sitting position, as she grazed at the cradle with her little bundle of joy. Seeing us walk in, she smiled and used her both hands to gesture for us to come closer. You girls come see my son's handsomeness, she yelled, and we both chuckled as we walked forward to admire her son. Indeed, he was so handsome with a sharp jawline at a tender stage. Wow, I see him breaking hearts in the future, Kat yelled with a laugh, and I hit her arm playfully. He won't be a heartbreaker. He would find his mate and get mated appropriately, I said, and Paula rolled her eyes. I want him to be a heartbreaker. This beauty can't go in vain. Paula supported Kat. Why was I surprised? Can I hold him? He looks so adorable, I asked, and Paula gave me a weird look. He is also like your son. You girls don't need permission to hold him, she said sweetly, and I felt touched. I reached out to take the baby in my hands, cradling him in my arms and admiring how small he was. One day, he would grow into a man as well. Funny how life works. What's his name? It better be a hot-ass name, Kat asked as she kept staring at his face. Oh, his name is Nikolai. I and Gage gave him that name, she said, and beamed at us. Nikolai, I tasted the name on my tongue and it didn't sound sore. Not bad, Kat said, and turned to the baby. Nikolai, she called out loud. The door was soon pushed open again, and Gage walked in. It's time to go home, he said, and we all sighed. We'll host a naming ceremony and you girls would have all the time in the world to hold little Nico, Paula said, and we all raised a brow. Little Nico was all you could think of, Kat blurted out, and we bursted out laughing, together with Gage. She rolled her eyes and climbed off the bed. As werewolves. We were bound to heal faster after delivery, and she seemed to have healed up completely already. All right, let's leave, she announced, and strolled out, leaving us to watch her back as she walked out like she hadn't just birthed a child. Yup, she is a strange. Gage let out, and we all laughed at that. Erika's POV. I sat on the edge of the bed in our bedroom, my heart drumming in my chest as I fidgeted with my nightwear. Cindy had specifically instructed me to wear a flimsy nightwear instead of my pajamas. This was my first night with Alex. Well, it wasn't the first. We had done this before back when we were married to each other. But to me, this was my first time. A first time that came out of love and me not feeling like some kind of liability. The bathroom door was soon pulled open, and I felt my heart almost leap out of my chest. I was so nervous, unable to find the courage to turn around and meet Alex's gaze. I kept my gaze forward, anticipating his next moves towards me. But minutes passed, and there were still no movements from him. I turned slightly, wanting to see what he was doing. But when I turned my gaze, I almost screamed as I saw a shirtless Alex. He walked slowly towards me, and I was unable to look steadily into his eyes as embarrassment flooded my mind and looked away immediately. No, Alex's voice rang out. Keep your eyes on me, Erika, he ordered, and I found myself obeying at once. He came to sit beside me, his hand coming to move my hair to the side, and his face buried into the crook of my neck. He peppered opened-mouth kisses on my neck, trailing downwards to my shoulder and arms. Without a doubt, I would consummate and mate with Alex tonight. A few days passed, with things going well for each and every one of us. Cat lived happily, taking up the duties of the Thunderclaw Pack orphanage, and mostly inviting me over. We all lived happily as if nothing had ever happened to us. On this day, I walked out of the room, which had newly brought in children, and found Cat leaning on the wall with her hands on her forehead. "Cat, are you all right?" I asked the moment I stood beside her. She breathed out and shook her head. "I feel like crap," she gritted out, still not failing to use her usual foul words. "Tell me what is happening to your body," I said seriously, no traces of a smile on my face. She finally gave in and told the truth. Nauseous, lightheaded, tired, and dizzy. I blinked at those words from her. "Come, I'll take you to the infirmary," I said instead, and she nodded. I helped her out of the orphanage and straight to the car parked outside. "Drive to the hospital," I said to the driver the moment we both climbed in. Cat kept tossing and turning, and suddenly she went limp. I panicked, seeing her unmoving state. "Cat!" I called out, shaking her vigorously, but she didn't respond. "Katerina!" I called out again, shaking her even more, but still got no response. "Drive faster," I yelled at the driver, and he stepped on the gas. The car soon arrived at the infirmary, and I ordered the guard to call the hospital staff. They came rushing out with a stretcher, helping Cat out of the car and wheeling her in the moment she was placed on the stretcher. I called Jace, telling him of what happened, and he told me he would be at the hospital in no time. The process of checking Cat lasted for a few minutes before the doctor walked out of the room. He was all smiles, and he came to stand towards me. "Luna Erika, I'm glad to inform you that Luna Katerina is pregnant." At those words from the doctor, my heart leaped in joy and a smile broke out on my face. "Thank you so much, doctor," I said with a bow, and he walked out. Jace came rushing in at that time, and seeing the smile on my face as I watched him, he paused. "What's wrong? Where is she?" he asked, nervously looking around. "She is in her ward. The doc just came out to inform me of the good news that Cat is going to be a mother." I went straight to the point, and I saw Jace's eyes widened. "What?" he yelled out, and I laughed, giving him a nod. The joy and happiness I saw on Jace's face the next minute was one I never saw before, as he immediately insisted on going to see her. I complied, and he immediately dashed into her ward to see her. I pulled out my phone again to inform Paula about the good news. First, she gave us a sweet pup, and now Cat was about to do the same. I felt happy about it, and when I eventually told her about it, she expressed a happiness just the same as Jace's. She said she would visit the hospital or the pack house to see Cat in a few days. I loved the development of things in our lives at this point. Everything fell into place in the lives of everyone, and we all lived happily again after everything that had happened so far. The fights with Serenity that had taken a toll on everyone, the death of Noir and all, they had become past tenses, and we hoped things kept being smooth and wonderful for my friends and I. After a few successful months, Cat eventually gave birth to her cute little daughter, one that brought joy and happiness to the entire Thunderclaw Pack. Her little alpha, just like I was. Her little girl was named Celine, and she looked extremely beautiful with sharp eyes. Well, I, on the other hand, waited for a miracle from the moon goddess. I was yet to conceive too, but Alex would often comfort me and tell me that my turn to have a little pup would come. Everything came at its own time, and I only had to wait till the goddess brought forth our own little alpha. He insisted on taking me out on a vacation to clear my mind and have me enjoy myself before we were also tied down by responsibility of parents, just like Paula, Gage, Cat, and Jace. Each time they would busy themselves in caring for their kids while still keeping the pack running. Gage had insisted that he wouldn't become alpha of the Moonforest Pack, so we merged. He still lived as Alex's beta, but he lived in the Moonforest Pack previous pack house with Elena and Alex's mother. "You want us to go on vacation?" I asked Alex again as he walked out of the bathroom. He nodded. I already got 2 tickets to Lycansville, he said with a smile, and I sighed. But what about the pack? Who would take care of it? Gage will. Gage is a father now, I argued. The man needs fine for his family. Who says he wouldn't have time for his family if he takes care of the pack? Alex was being unreasonable again. But well, I guess I really needed that vacation since it always hurt to know that I hadn't gotten my own child. Alex insisted we leave for the vacation the next day, and I got the maids to pack up my bags and luggages. I went over to my father's bedroom to inform him about it. He was seated by his window with a glass of whatever and a magazine in hand. Once he saw me walk in, he smiled and gestured to the seat before me. "Why are you here, little Alpha?" "I'm not an alpha anymore, Dad," I said with a giggle, and he scoffed. "You will always be my little Alpha," he replied with a smile. I rolled my eyes, then sighed. "Alex wants me to go on vacation with him," I finally announced, waiting for so many questions of what and why. "Yes, it's good for you. I told him to take you for a vacation," Father replied, and I blinked. "You did?" "Yes, you need it." He smiled at me, and I bit my lower lip. "Why do you think I need a vacation?" I asked, eyes suddenly moist. He sighed. "Your friends are now mothers. You aren't. So I need you to go away for a few days to clear your head and make you understand that the Mother of the Moon will visit you soon." At those words, the tears fell again from my eyes, and I bit my lips again. "Thank you, Father," I said, and he nodded. "You're welcome." I went forward to hug him as gratitude for his encouragement. Erika's POV. My waiting for a child unfortunately lasted for 2 years, and thankfully, on this day, I went into labor after a stressful 6 months. Alex and the others helped me out and into the car, driving me directly to the infirmary. I was panicking, also trying to breathe through my mouth just how Paula did in her own time. "Rika, calm down. You can do this," Kat said again, as she and Paula rubbed my back and arms soothingly. I nodded my head, continuously biting my lips until it bled. "Stop doing that, Erika," Alex yelled from the front seat of the car, seeing the blood trailing down my lower lip. Well, the pain from the lips gave me a momentary relief from the pains in my stomach. I breathed out again, watching as Paula stroked my arm till we arrived at the hospital. The nurses were already lined up at the entrance with a wheelchair, and once we arrived, Alex helped me onto it while the nurses wheeled me into the hospital. "You'll be fine, love. Just breathe and remember our daughter," Alex said anxiously, and I suddenly frowned. "Alex, it's not a girl, it's a boy." "My son," I argued, and Kat chuckled. "Even with such intense pains assaulting you, you still have the energy to argue about your child's gender." Paula let out as she and Kat shook their heads at me. "You will never change, Rika." "But I do vote for a son for you," Kat said, and made a face at Alex. I chuckled through pain and winked at Alex. "I vouch for a daughter," Paula announced, and Alex grinned at me. I glared at Paula, mouthing the word betrayer before being wheeled into the labor room. This was it, the time to bring my little bundle of joy into the world. UTHOR's POV. The birthing process began, and Erika screamed every now and then. Alex, who stood outside, felt his heart almost leap out of his chest at each scream that came from his mate. Kat and Paula stood at the side as they watched him pace back and forth. "Alpha Alex, she will be fine," Kat said as she couldn't stand his pacing anymore. She felt dizzy already, watching him walk from one place to the other. He was acting like his wife would die at any time. "I know, but I feel bad," he said, and Paula sighed. "She will be fine," she said to him. Just then, the door to the ward was pushed open and the female doctor walked out. There was panic on her face as she came to Alex. "Alpha, there's a problem." Alex's heart hammered in his chest, hearing those words. Kat and Paula also stood to walk up to the doctor as well. "What happened?" Paula asked first. The doctor sighed, pulling her bloodied hand gloves off. The Luna has issues with her womb section, and she can't bear those children, or else. She might die, or she might lose her wolf. What? Alex, Paula, and Kat yelled in unison. The doctor nodded, confirming her words again. Yes, so we have to take the children. Doctor, what do you mean by children? Is she perhaps pregnant with twins? Kat asked, her brow raised. The doctor shook her head. Luna Erika is pregnant with triplet sons. At her words, everyone froze on track, including Alex. Triplets? Alex asked, taking a big gulp of saliva. Yes, and she needs to get rid of the babies or she might lose her wolf. The doctor reminded me again. Alex felt tears at the corners of his eyes just hearing that his babies had to be removed for his Luna to be safe. Please, yes. Do anything to keep Erika and her wolf safe. She can always bear other children, Alex said, his eyes moist. The doctor shook her head. That's the thing. She insists on having her sons. She said she doesn't mind losing her wolf. Oh, goodness. Erika is so unreasonable. We have to convince her, Paula said with tears in her eyes. The nurse ran out immediately to call the doctor. The Luna asked for you. The doctor gave Alex and the others a little bow before rushing back into the ward. Erika was a breathing mess as she watched the doctor. Help. Get my sons for me. My wolf says she would sacrifice herself in exchange, she drawled, and the doctor shut her briefly. She took in deep breaths before grabbing the hand gloves again to proceed with Erika's request. Thankfully, the process went well and Erika had her triplets out to the world. She passed out afterwards as the children were placed beside her. The doctor walked out again to inform Alex that the children and mother were safe. She lost her wolf? Alex asked painfully, and the doctor shrugged. We find out after she wakes up. Alex nodded and waved the doctor off after asking if he could see his wife and sons. He walked into the ward and seeing Erika connected to multiple machines. His heart broke into tiny bits. He sat by her side, holding onto her hand, as he said a big thank you to her for bringing their children into the world and sacrificing her wolf in exchange. He then moved to check on the children, and a smile made its way to his face. This was it. His sons and his wife, safe and sound. When Erika woke up, they both thought of a name for their sons. I told you it would be a boy, she weakly said and chuckled. As she didn't have her wolf anymore, she couldn't heal up fast. Yes, she lost her wolf. Yes, you win, Alex laughed as Paula and Kat came into the room. Oh my, Rika is such a fighter. Look at these alphas. Kat yelled out softly as she watched the 3 boys in the cradle. I'm so jealous. I want triplets too, Paula added, and everyone laughed. Who came first? Alex asked calmly from the sides. Erika smiled and pointed at each of them. She could remember vividly who came out first and last. And what are their names? Kat asked, looking from Alex to Erika. She will decide. Alex passed it on to Erika. With a smile on Erika's face, she gave their names out. Liam, Logan, and Levi. From that day forward, things became better and better for them. They had their sons and daughter with them. Everything fell into place for each of them, and life seemed perfect for. Author's note. Hey dear readers, as I pen down this author's note, I can't help the whirlwind of emotions as my heart is filled with joy. Our beloved characters, Alpha Alexander and Luna Erika, have embarked on an extraordinary journey, and now they find themselves basking in the joy of parenthood. The journey of Alpha, Alex, and Luna Erika has been a source of strength and inspiration during my own battle with health issues. The arrival of their triplet sons is a testament to the power of love, hope, and the miracles that can unfold within the realms of our imagination. I understand that not everyone's tastes align, and that's perfectly all right. What matters most is that I poured my heart and soul into crafting this tale, hoping to captivate and engage readers like you. Thank you for being a part of Alex and Erika's journey, including Katerina and Jace's journey. Of course, Paula and Gage included. Also, for Tassira, since she couldn't win Jace's heart, she eventually gave up. Though she still harbors a deep resentment towards Katerina for what she believes Katerina did to her. Tassira's feelings towards Kat are complex now. She believes Katerina played a role in thwarting her chances with Jace. But in all, she never thought of coming for Kat, or trying to get Jace by all means. Also, Noir never had any family aside from his mother. Now, for Serenity's real family, the Wren family of Avenir City. They all came to show gratitude to Jace for his invaluable help. They recognized that Jace's actions, along with the support of Erika and the entire Ironclaw, were instrumental in ensuring Serenity's downfall and bringing justice to the family for the harassments. Alpha Jerome, Erika's father, also comes clean about the shady business they were all involved in. He revealed the truth about their past and confessed that he was also poisoned by Serenity's father all those years ago. Serenity was driven by her deep desire for revenge, wanting to take down Alpha Jerome and Gridshade, regardless of whether her father was wrong or not. Her sole focus was on avenging her wicked father. She also finds out about her father's crimes and how Gridshade did everything he did out of self-defense. But she still didn't want to let it slide. She wanted to get revenge and have Alex as well. It has been an honor to share this adventure with you all, and I hope this story has touched your hearts as much as it touched my mine. Until we meet again, THEEN deep.